There we are. It is now 6 o'clock, and I will call this meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission to order. If we could please read the procedures.
The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the commission as a whole through the chair. If you are participating via Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance to the chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Way, if you could lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could get a roll call, please.
Absolutely. District 1, Vincent Reamhaden.
Here.
District 2, Richard Way.
Here.
District 3, Robert Scaliotti.
Here.
District 4, Robert Gibson.
Here.
District 5, Celeste Toledo Bocanegra.
Present.
All commissioners are present.
Thank you. Department announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Good evening. Abraham Prado, your Director of Planning and Building Services for the County of San Benito. As you've requested for us to come before you from time to time to let you know what our recent projects have been that we are processing before for entitlement purposes. Regular building permits that are ministerial are basically within the department, and we're talking about dozens per month, but ministerial one, discretionary ones that will come before you are the ones that we're presenting today. And since our last meeting in December, we have 2. And the first one is a conditional use permit application. The applicant, Central Coast Worm Farm, is proposing to expand its composting vermiculture operation at 1206 Shore Road. And this is to meet increasing demand for worm livestock for their operation. The expansion involves implementing an aerated static house system, ASP, for enhanced compost production. The applicant proposes installing scales for precise measurement of incoming feedstock and outgoing product, setting up of office trailers for efficient management, and constructing a lined water catchment basin to comply with environmental regulations. The site is located approximately 2.7 miles northeast of the Hollister Municipal Airport at 1206 Shore Road. So we'll begin that process. We've received that within the last 4 weeks or so. So we'll begin that process and bring it before you when the process is complete. The next one, the second one that we received within the last 4 weeks since our last Planning Commission meeting, is a minor subdivision application in our residential rural general plan designation located about a mile east of the Hollister Highway 25 bypass, east of Santa Ana Road, and then north on King Drive, as you can see on the map, and then east on Edgewood Drive to the east terminus. And the proposal is to subdivide a 5.43 acre parcel in the residential rural general plan designation into 3 lots, a 2.82 acre lot, a 1.03 acre lot, and a 1.13 acre lot. And we will be processing the minor subdivision, making sure that it complies with all the regulations, and then we will bring it before a public hearing before the Planning Commission. So those are the 2 items that we have since our last Planning Commission meeting, and we'll continue to report every time we receive more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners. This is just an update on the Sustainable Agricultural Land Conservation Program grant. The county applied for it in September, and we found out on December 14th from the Strategic Growth Council that we were awarded $500,000 with a 10% 50,000 county matching funds for a total of $550,000 to do an agricultural element. The county applied under these grants and to develop and implement plans for the protection of agricultural lands under pressure of being converted to non-agricultural uses. So the goals of SALC are essentially to protect agricultural lands that support infill and compact development, contribute to carbon neutrality, support sustainable land management, support coordinated land use planning, and secure the state's economic sustainability and food security. So we're working on executing the grant agreement, which will get finalized sometime between March to June. We are working on putting out a request for a proposal for a consultant to assist the county in preparation. As part, and it's attached to the Planning Commission packet, was our application that was submitted to the Department of Conservation, and in there it breaks out some of the different tasks, and you'll notice, I believe it's under task 3, that there is a comprehensive community engagement piece to this work, and we will be putting together a public advisory committee as we get going. So I'll be bringing future updates, and we'll be engaging in lots of discussions with the public and getting different sectors of the public and landowners involved in this process to make sure we are actively engaging in good future conservation policies, and that also support the agricultural economy within the county. So thank you. And that concludes my update on that item, unless there's any questions. Okay. I am presenting next one, which is our schedule. It hasn't, there is actually no changes since our December meeting. The only item that I have on here to schedule would be the ethics training. It is it's going to be about 2 hours presentation, and so felt it appropriate to schedule it as a special meeting, preferably on a Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We do have a special meeting in 2 weeks on the 31st, so staff was initially suggesting maybe a week in February. It is required to do this every 2 years, and we do have two members. If you want to provide some availability of dates.
Yes, Sean. Council, however you want
Thank
to be
you.
addressed.
The training can be done as part of a meeting, but it can also be done separately. So I would ask the commission whether you could, not necessarily tonight, do you need to give me a decision, but you could do it alternatively too. So you can either do it as a public meeting or you can do it separately too.
If it's at a public meeting, I'd rather have it at the end so the public doesn't get to sit through the joy of the ethics training module. It's up to, what do you all think? You want a special meeting just to get that done and out of the way?
Yeah, why don't we wait, sit here afterwards for an extra 2 hours? We could have a 2-hour meeting and end up here for 2 hours more. That's up to you guys, but that's my thought.
Yeah. In case we have a long meeting, an extra 2 hours, we might be falling asleep at the dais.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do it as part of a meeting. You could do it separately. But
Yeah,
we can do
I
it
think
as
a
meeting.
special meeting
meeting, okay.
is preferable.
Yeah, we'll set that up.
Okay, so I'll coordinate through the
Well,
chair and
unless it's
commissioner.
easier to have everyone pull out their calendars now.
If you have dates available,
Is everyone open in February?
Yep.
I am.
okay. We
Ew.
could do the first Wednesday,
Pick a
the
Wednesday.
second Wednesday. Either the 7th or.
Oh, 14th wouldn't be good.
No, not the 14th. That'd be bad.
We'll all be in trouble.
No, I'm not, no. I'll do the, I can do the 7th.
7th?
7th? So that's, can you do the 7th?
Okay, 7th.
7th.
Actually, there is a conflict. The second week,
The first Wednesday or the fourth Wednesday?
First. The 7th we'd like to do.
the 7th. Okay. We will get that scheduled.
Thank you.
And that concludes department announcements.
Wunderbar. Public comment. This is for general public comment. Items that are under the purview of the Planning Commission but not on this evening's agenda. Please bring your cards forward.
All right, Barry Katz, you may approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Happy New Year, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I know you guys get a ton of email, so I just want to mention I sent you folks 2 emails. The subject is which is the problems that Los Angeles County is having with 2 mega dumps within their jurisdiction. I would appreciate if you would look at those. You will see on one of them some 20 links to some 20 different, I could be wrong on the number, but there's a great many links to news sources as far away as Australia of the problems that they're having there. These include over 1,200 odor complaints, hundreds of violations that were issued by the California Air Resources Board for air pollution problems. And there are also concerns about water pollution at these mega dumps. There's also a class action lawsuit against the county. So I just want you to be aware that the county bears a lot of liability if you take possession of the property for a landfill. It doesn't all fall on Waste Connections or the operator. And also, it just should be clear to everyone at this point from all these meetings that we've held that people here do not want this big giant expansion of a landfill. They just do not support it. They don't want to be the trash can for 5 other counties. We do, however, need to have garbage service, a place for our own trash to go. I think you should look toward alternatives 3 and 4 that are in the EIR for the landfill for 300 tons per day, using either the existing 100 acres that's owned by the county already, or possibly a small piece of what the Waste Connections is offering. I know there's one alternative that's entirely on their property. We don't want you to purchase any more land than necessary, or not take possession. We want most of this big 400-acre expansion to remain in private property, where it'll generate tax revenue, property taxes for the county. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any. Okay, Maureen Nelson, please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Are there any additional speaker cards in the audience? Please bring them forward.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. So again, I would like to confirm what Barry has just stated. Amazing. That's all I have to say. Truly amazing. So what Barry stated about taking a small portion, I'm not really keen on that idea, but I like the way he qualified it in saying, do not, please do not accept all 388 acres that Waste Solutions has already purchased. Because again, my analogy is it's a box of See's candy. Once you open it up, you'll eat every single bite of candy within that box. We don't need the whole box. Don't do it, please. We talk a lot about we need waste disposal. We need to do something. What are we going to do as a county? We have 14 years. We need to start working on how we reduce our waste, how we recycle, how we compost. Education is a wonderful thing. I've been there many a times learning. We need to do a better job educating our citizens because we're throwing away an awful lot of stuff we don't need to be. We're using space because we have it. Well, guess what? We don't have it anymore. It's limited, and we know how to fix it. We know we can change. We need the opportunity. Do not give in to large corporations that are making millions of dollars off of us. I talked at the meeting last night, and I gave an example of what Waste Solutions has in the EIR. And it states that approximately in the year 2030, now understand, that was based on this EIR being approved in 2020. So that would take us out to 2034, that the revenue could potentially be $7.1 million. Sounds like a heck of a lot of money. The county paid over $3 million to repair Fairview Road 3 years ago for a 2.5-mile stretch, 2 lanes wide. What do you think that costs today? What do you think it'll cost in 2034? $7.1 million isn't a panacea. It is not going to get you what you think. When the county has an annual budget currently over $300 million a year, $7 million in 14 years is nothing. It is relatively 1 to 2% of the county's budget. It's not going to make or break us. So please take this into consideration. It's not worth our risking the health, welfare, and the status of San Benito County. We are not the trash dump. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bridget Bowman-Thorpe, please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bridget Bowman-Thorpe. I also want to talk about the landfill. And I want to talk actually a little bit about the Newbie Island landfill. It's one of the, by the way, the largest landfill on the shores of San Francisco Bay. It serves San Jose, Santa Clara, Milpitas, Cupertino, Los Altos. And it's 342 acres. By the way, that's what causes the smell for Milpitas. It's right on the border to Milpitas. So this 342 acre Newbie Island landfill serves the 5 cities. It is 342 acres. That begs the question, why does Hollister, San Benito County needs a 483 acre landfill expansion when it only has a population of 67,000 people? I mean, the thing is, we importing garbage. And by the way, the gross revenue, let's say you would allow 2,300 tons per day, which is times 364, you do the math, it comes up eventually to 700,000 tons per year. Do the math, the landfill is open, is only closed on 4 days out of the year currently. So they would come in 7 days a week. So yeah, that's a lot of garbage. And again, you know, this is Hollister, we're talking about a small county, and you're treating it like it's a big city. And I also wanted to point out, please check out Kirby Landfill. At least this is also a large landfill. At least they don't have to bring that trash bring it through the city. At least it's on 101. And so I want to point that. And then also I wanted to tell you, if you knew, do you actually know what the CO2 emissions are from the landfill gas? Well, I have an EPA report, but it's not current because they said facility discontinued reporting for a valid reason, but I felt like the citizens need to know, because in 2011, which is over 12 years ago, it was 11,907 metric tons of CO2. That's a lot of CO2. And if there's no wind blowing, then it disperses within the valley. So there's your huge landfill gas emitter. And RNG doesn't save you. Even with RNG, is still greenhouse gas emissions are significant and unavoidable.
Thank you.
Annette Perez, please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. It's freezing in here. Hello, my name's Annette Perez. I live in San Benito County, and I want to encourage you guys not to certify the EIR for the John Smith landfill expansion because the environmental impacts are significant and avoidable, and the benefits do not outweigh the detriment to our county. I also ask that you do not approve this landfill expansion. Our county only produces, as you know, less than 230 tons of trash a day. And Waste Solutions would like to bring in 2,300 tons of trash per day, plus another 1,000 tons of beneficial waste. So during peak period times, we could have as much as 3,317 tons of trash come in. That's a lot of additional semi-trucks that will be crowding and damaging our roads and emitting extra greenhouse gases that is unnecessary. You add in the water trucks, and it will be a nightmare for all of us in Hollister. I know that as a Hollister citizen that my quality of life has gone down because of the traffic. You can't even go to Costco and get home before the ice cream melts. It's ridiculous. You know, I'm tired of that. And could you imagine adding all these extra trucks, bringing us all this extra garbage from out of county? It's just not worth it. Our children and our grandchildren will be the ones left with this massive landfill that threatens their environment, their air quality, and their water supply. No landfill is completely safe. Our roads, as I said, are already impacted, and our only option I keep hearing is to build a transfer station, but that's not true. You all have seen option 4. You should look at that. It's using our own acreage across the street when it's full. We could also stretch out the time frame that's left in the landfill by implementing reduce, reuse, and encouraging zero waste. Also, when residents and businesses have to pull out their compost and their waste from the food products, that also will reduce our waste and may give us more time in our landfill. Let's hope technology changes. There's got to be a better way of dealing with our trash than just burying it and turning our heads. And I'm sorry, but those 5 other counties need to figure out what to do with their trash and not bring it to San Benito County. This is our county. We need to preserve our future, save our land. Do you guys want to see a garbage mountain? The other thing I want to bring up is that Class 1 situation. That Class 1 is the cities. That's their responsibility. It's listed as a benefit to us as a county, but it's not our responsibility. The city should apply for grants, get it cleaned up. They could do it. They'd be responsible. Waste Solution has put a lot of restrictions on when they will clean it and how they will clean it. So they, again, are running the show here. They'll only clean it if they take in 2,300 tons or 1,700 tons of trash. And then in Little Blue Writing, they want to be able to take in 2,300.
Thank you.
Elias Salinas, please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Any other comment cards before we go to Zoom? Please bring them forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. It's amazing how we can have folks that have just been in San Benito County for a few years in a new development come in and tell what the other residents of San Benito and the city of Hollister can and cannot do. All I ask is that I urge you to review the documents and the EIR and everything that has been done. You listen to what the attorney has to say that represents San Benito County as well as the integrated waste management. 25 at the most is factually recyclable. The rest is not recyclable. So if you want to start the renew, reuse, you start doing it yourselves. You go ahead and you be the person that, you know, can go out and you can show people. But in reality, when it goes into that blue and it gets to the facility, it doesn't get recycled. That's just a fact. It is currently 95 acres, the landfill, and it will increase to 195 acres. It will not be increasing to 500 acres. And what we have is you have individuals that are passionate and are willing to say anything to get your attention regardless of whether it's factual or not. The landfill would have 288 acres, 288 acres of buffer zone, with 195 being used as the landfill itself. The question to ask these folks, they should come up with the answer. And it's not 15 years, we actually have about 12 years. In 12 years, the state of California right now has to get noticed by San Benito County that the lifespan is actually less than 15 years, and it has not been done yet. And there is a possibility, there are penalties for not doing that. So in 12 years, what then? Where will the trash go? Who will take our trash if it's not expanded so that we can continue to do it here? The property across the street that is purchased by San Benito County is for environmental. It's for protection of the animals and the creatures that are out there. It's not to build a landfill. It's not to build a transfer station. And you need to consider that it is possible that a transfer station, after every single thing that needs to be done, could cost the county up to $27 million. And there have been no landfills built or given permission since
Thank you.
1992. Thank you.
Thank you.
And through Zoom, Jessica, you have been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment. My name is Jessica Woolander, and I am the Environmental Associate for Green Foothills, a nonprofit dedicated to protecting open space, farmland, and natural resources for the benefit of all through education, advocacy, and grassroots action. Since our founding in 1962, our work has led to the permanent protection of nearly 200,000 acres of open space, including many beloved nature preserves and critical habitat areas. My main focus is on the Upper Papua watershed, which includes San Benito County. As you know, on January 31st, you will be deciding whether or not to recommend the John Smith Road landfill be expanded. This massive expansion is not because San Benito County's residents generate so much trash, but because the landfill operator is hoping to accept waste from neighboring counties in order to increase their revenue. Instead of the less than 300 tons of trash per day generated by San Benito residents, landfill could become a mega dump, receiving up to 2,300 tons of garbage per day, 87% of which would come from outside the county, primarily Silicon Valley. Expanding the landfill could have huge impacts on the environment, and I wanted to remind you of a few key issues that I am especially concerned about. Contamination of groundwater is a big one. Recently, the landfill operators were forced to test the wells of nearby residents due to a leak of toxic forever chemicals, and increasing the size of the landfill would only create more risk of contamination. The landfill itself would use massive amounts of water, pulling up to 408,000 gallons per month from the aquifer, but also increase air pollution. In addition to the methane gas pollution released by the landfill itself, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide, significantly more trucks to be on the road, and the proposed haul route goes right by the hospital, shopping centers, homes, grocery stores, and the proposed site of Hollister's brand new high school. At capacity, the landfill will change the landscape. The piles created would be so high that they would alter the views of the rolling hills in the area. It would take a beautiful region of our county and literally turn it into a mountain of trash. Expanding the landfill would harm San Benito County, and the significant impacts on our environment and the health of our community does not justify the revenue generated by the expansion. We need to protect these essential resources for the safety of the community and the future of the county. Please deny the expansion of the landfill. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more public comments in chambers or via Zoom.
Okay, public comment is closed. Consent agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, what's the will of the commission?
We approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, 5-0. Nothing under item 7. Item 8, regular agenda, nomination of chair and vice chair. Is there a nomination for the chair of the planning commission?
I'll nominate Robert Gibson.
Is there any discussion?
I second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Vice chair? Are there any nominations for the position of vice chair?
I nominate Robert Scagliotti.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Now we don't have to switch seats. On to the confirmation of the agenda, the calendar.
As you'll see in the attached, it is the third Wednesday at 6 p.m. Through the months of January through December, unless there are any changes for holiday or.
I see no conflicts at this time. We can always adjust it down the road if need be. Is there a motion to adopt the calendar as presented?
I'll make a motion, we adopt the calendar.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, 5-0. Thank you. 8.3, presentation from the Economic Development Corporation on the SEDS.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have our Executive Director of the Economic Development Corporation, Renee Wells, here in the audience, who will be introducing the topic and presenting the speaker for today. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm just waiting for confirmation on the slides, sorry.
Good evening and welcome.
And staff,
Thank
county
you.
staff. I'll introduce myself in case someone doesn't know me and the public. I'm Renee Wells. I'm the Executive Director of the Economic Development Corporation of San Benito County, or the EDC, we call it. The EDC is a nonprofit organization with 2 part-time staff and 10 volunteer board members that are working in the community. We're funded equally by the City of Hollister and the County of San Benito to provide economic development services throughout the county. In July 22, the EDC received an $80,000 grant from the Economic Development Administration, or the EDA, as well as a $5,000 contribution from the City of San Juan Bautista to facilitate an update of San Benito County's comprehensive economic development strategy for 2023 through 2027. This is a document we call the SEDS for short. This was a joint partnership effort between the EDC, the county, and the cities of Hollister and San Juan Bautista. With the EDA grant, the EDC was able to contract with 2 consultants, Stephen Wallstrom of Wallstrom and Associates, and Marie Jones of Marie Jones Consulting, to assist us with this important effort to develop the SEDS that will allow partners in the region to apply for federal funding. The consultants conducted many interviews throughout the county with stakeholders, and they worked with a group of about 30 members of our SEDS strategy committee. Some of the supervisors were on there, city council, a lot of the community stakeholders were on that, and including Abraham Prado, I believe. The updated SEDS serves as a bridge that connects funding at the federal level to much needed projects at our local level. With that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to one of our SEDS consultants, Marie Jones, who will go into greater detail about the SEDS process, the content, and hopefully between the both of us, we can help answer any questions you might have.
Thanks so much, Renee. It's nice to meet you all, even though it's a little virtual here. Sorry for the low light conditions. I don't usually do Zoom meetings at night. And if you guys don't mind, I'd like to just share my screen rather than have the document showing up through your normal system, just because then I can control the slides. That's all right. So Renee tipped us off really good and basically described our process. I think you have this PowerPoint in your packet. Basically, then I'm just going to go real quickly over the purpose and the process for developing the SEDS, and then a quick look at the contents. Just want to emphasize that it is only 41 pages, so if you record one night, it's a pretty fast read and you might find it somewhat interesting. So the main purpose of a comprehensive economic development strategy, or a SEDS, is to bring funding to local projects. And so the money comes through the Economic Development Administration, and you see there on the left all of the different funding sources: the American Rescue Act, Inflation Reduction Act, Infrastructure Bill, et cetera, and travels through to local communities, local governments, and local businesses, either via grants or low-interest loans. What the SEDS does is it requires that the local community get together, look at their economy, identify their strengths and weaknesses, and then identify their priority projects for funding. So being in the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy doesn't mean you're going to get funding. It's basically a ticket to play. It means you can now apply for funding. So it's a very important step for a local community to take, and can bring significant resources to a wide array of projects, everything from infrastructure and climate resiliency to development projects for your community. So economic development is often thought of consisting of all the things on the diagram here, business retention, expansion, entrepreneurship, and new business development, business attraction. And the San Benito community does all of those things. What the SEDS really supports, though, are economic development projects and infrastructure. So it's really physical things, not programs or activities. So the process for developing the SEDS, I don't know, sometimes Zoom is annoying. The process for developing the SEDS involved coming together with economic analysis, identifying projects, doing key informant interviews, and a survey that was sent out to about 30 community groups, and then we prepared the draft SEDS. Then that was presented to Hollister and San Juan Bautista for public comment and input. And then there was a 30-day public review period, and the final SEDS was adopted by the Board of Supervisors in October of 2023. I do want to emphasize that annual amendments can be made to the SEDS anytime. So if there's something in here that you particularly don't like, now would be a good time to relay it to Renee so that it could contemplate being taken out next year. And there's an annual progress report to EDA, and new SEDS have to be prepared every 5 years. Okay, so I just want to talk briefly about some of the economic findings. I don't like reports that have just like a ton of data, because you kind of don't know what it all means. So I like to distill things down into what are the key things that anybody should take home. And one of the things I noticed really quickly in San Benito County is there's kind of this theory that you guys don't have a bad rate of an economy. I think it's sort of like the little brother syndrome with big old San Jose. The reality is San Benito County is super competitive and very rapidly growing. It places very high in GDP growth. So this chart on the right shows San Benito County being in the top third of counties in the state of California for GDP growth, gross domestic product, and it also places incredibly high in net employment growth. So that's just stuff to keep in mind when you're thinking about your community. It is actually quite a strong economy. There's also this theory or this perception out there that somehow San Benito County has high levels of income inequality. That's really not shown by the data. If you look at this chart here showing San Benito County, really in terms of income distribution, you have a very equal distribution between a rich, lower income, and middle income. You have actually the largest middle income, which is sort of this column here, the red and the green, of any of the comparison economies. So that's something to be super proud of, I think, especially in today's world where you have so much increasing income inequality. There's also this theory out there that if somehow you just attracted a bunch of global technology companies to San Benito County, then people wouldn't commute and the roads would ease up. Well, the data doesn't really show that. So the county currently has 18,000 jobs and about 27,000 workers. San Benito County's tech workforce is really small. Only 14% of the 16,700 workers who commute to jobs out of county. So even if you could keep them all here, it wouldn't really impact your commuting situation. What's interesting about San Benito County is it is a bedroom community for working class jobs. I found that super interesting. So construction, education, retail, healthcare, and other very place specific service sectors that really can't be moved to San Benito County. Like you can't move all the construction jobs that are happening in the South Bay to San Benito County, and yet you have a lot of workforce in construction that are driving north. So that's just an important thing about when you're thinking through business attraction and retention. And then of course we did crunch all the numbers. If you want to make yourself dizzy, you can look at the table there. Another really important thing to keep in mind about San Benito County is there's no economic prosperity without the Latino community. And engaging the Latino community in enterprise development, local jurisdictions, agencies, and nonprofits really have to support Latino entrepreneurs and business owners. I talked a little bit about there's this theory in economic development that you shoot at anything that flies and take credit for anything that falls. But you're making really important choices when you're engaged in economic development. So 2 recent projects really bring some negativity as well as the positivity. So particularly the new Amazon Fulfillment Center is going to bring a lot of traffic to your roads. And the jobs are not that great. And then you add the 2 big cannabis production operations that got permitted and are being built. They basically maxed out your electrical substation and really limited the ability of the community to either allow existing businesses to expand or even attract new businesses. So we did look at strengths and weaknesses. This was done more brainstorming and through our surveys and our community workshops. I'm just going to shout out a few of them. So obviously you have an extremely strategic location. Your airport is unique and a huge benefit. You have a great skilled regional workforce and you have lots of developable land. In terms of weakness, your wastewater treatment system is pretty weak and needs big investments. There's this lack of adequate electrical power at the PG&E substation in Hollister, and you have some pretty serious road congestion. In terms of opportunities, great place for expanding solar and other different types of power facilities to deal with that power disadvantage that you have with the substation being maxed out. There's a lot of opportunity to assist existing businesses through a better permitting process. We've heard that quite a bit from community. Real interest in smart growth development. And really important to leverage state, local, and federal funds, and this SEDS will help with that. In terms of threats, I think everybody's really aware of the issues around droughts, flooding, and wildfires, and we have a lot of projects in here that help to address those. And then, of course, the Hazel Hopkins Hospital issue. So these are some of our economic development initiatives. Some of them I think will not be a surprise, like retaining the hospital facilities, getting new electrical power, helping develop the new Gavilan College campus, expanding the youth empowerment hub. And then there's some more what I would call commercial projects. In terms of long-term initiatives, these are really coming more from the community, really seeking to improve internet access, tourism, and outdoor recreation. And then there were some specific Hollister and City of San Juan Bautista initiatives that these communities specifically wanted to get in here so they could access federal dollars to help make them be more successful. There are also a number of other kind of creative and out-of-the-box initiatives. And then there's a resiliency plan. This is required by the EDA, and so it's really to look at those key areas of energy, water, earthquakes, climate, and wildfire. And so this lists projects that could be undertaken in San Benito County. Some of these are already underway, and some have not started at all yet. And then quite a number around earthquake, fire, and floods. I do want to reiterate that the EDC is a small organization of just 2 people, and obviously they're not going to do all this themselves. In fact, it's highly unlikely, improbable, impossible. This is a group effort for the whole community, and really want to emphasize that I don't want to be sharing screen anymore. Have I stopped? Nope, I think I did stop. Okay, sorry. Technical difficulties. That this is a community effort, and that the various entities that are identified in the SEDS that will take leadership roles really need to get it out there and apply for funding. I don't want to underemphasize how important this is. I live in a very rural community, the county of Mendocino. You may know about it. Total population of 16,000 people, or 80,000, sorry. And the little city of Fort Bragg just got $10 million in grants in the last year from the EDA. So that's a lot of money for a city of 7,000 people. So it's a real resource, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions before we go to public comment?
No.
Okay. We hear vague statements that there may or may not be issues with the processes that we have. Feel free to email specific changes in ordinances or processes to the Planning Commission so that we can fix things if they're not working as well as they could. I think
so I can give us some feedback for that. The real specific issue that came up is the length of time for a permit to be processed.
Okay.
It's really just of time.
Okay. We will see what we can do. Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item?
Yes, Elias Salinas, please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Was it 1 minute? Oh.
Thank you. Great presentation. I attended one of the meetings that they had to, when they were requested information and input. I find it funny that we have a large graph for the median income, yet I was told just yesterday that the unemployment in San Benito County is actually twice of the average nationwide. I want to thank actually Michelle Leonard from the San Benito Business Counties Chamber, because since she's come on board, she's actually reached out to the Latino businesses and entrepreneurs and brought them into the business chamber so they can be part of and they can do the networking so they can get businesses from different organizations here in town. And so here's the thing. I saw really quickly, was that crop sign so you can identify the crop that you're driving by? I saw it was really quick. It just said crop.
Yeah, no, I can answer that question. It was more like what you see down in Salinas, where you see like the big, huge people who are working in the fields. So
Okay,
it's more like an art concept.
Okay, got it. Okay. And do not discourage businesses from coming to San Benito County because of the PG&E problem, because they can come in with what's called microgrids. So that's one of the things that's not on your report. And I don't want, we have the San Benito County Ag Center, we have Strata Verde, hopefully. We've got the Betabel project. We have also the project possibly on 156 and San Felipe Road. I don't know what it's called, but we have all that. So another thing I also heard from one of our locals here who's got property, he lost a contract because they were told that it was going to take 3 years to get PG&E to come in here. And I told him about microgrids, and he's like, what's a microgrid? You know, and I'm just like, well, they come in and they drop like a container, and that's your electricity that helps run a corporation.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that comment, and we actually do have microgrids in the SEDS. It's listed under the resiliency section and also the main part of the document, so maybe you just didn't notice that.
I didn't see it, or you didn't mention it. So it's very, very important because we need economic development in San Benito County, and that's really, I mean, you should put that up on the top of the list. We have PG&E, but we have the option for microgrids, and it's important. And I think that's all that I've got to comment on. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You gave us 13 seconds back. If I could change anything, it would be the language regarding the Hollister substation. Actually, I was told yesterday, and I didn't have time to go by there today, but I was told they dropped a massive transformer there. So I think things might be improving more rapidly than was first stated and said. So hopefully that's the case. But if we could get that corrected, hopefully by next year, maybe check in with PG&E if where we are as far as the time frame, because
Yes.
that language to me is not the best thing to be promoting.
Right. At the time this was written, there were issues with PG&E and getting the right information, and so it took a while. But and we've had several meetings with PG&E and community leaders. We're working with developers on a second PG&E meeting so they can discuss their concerns. We have been assured by 5 top PG&E leaders during the last meeting that we had that they are expanding it. It's going to happen this year. But I think a lot of people are skeptical because in other counties they're having the same issues throughout California, of course. And so there are issues surrounding what PG&E is telling you in the time frame.
Sure.
But we are looking into microgrids. We're working with a lot of different organizations to try to come up with some alternative ways of getting power, just in case PG&E doesn't come through and we don't have the capacity.
Sounds
So
good.
I just want to assure you that's happening.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the other commissioners?
I have a question, and could you tell me how many KVA the PG&E substation is currently?
I don't think I have that on hand. I could certainly provide you with that information. I just don't have it with me right now.
Well, the second question is, what were you upgrading it to?
They are
Or
upgrading
what
it.
were they upgrading it to, excuse me?
I don't remember.
I don't have the exact number right with me, right here, but I can get that for you.
If you could
I
get
have it,
back
I
to me,
just don't have it with
that's
it.
good information.
It is, yes.
And one other comment, has anybody considered solar farms? I know that some people love it, some people hate it. Can you talk a little
Yeah,
bit?
so solar farms are listed in the sets, so that, and it's definitely something you can get funding for from the federal government right now.
And we are looking into those. They're just in some of the areas where we can develop more, like over by the airport. There, you can't have, certain types of solar and things like that. So it just depends. In some places don't, developers, the property is so expensive, they don't want to use it for that because they can sell it for something else. And so you just try to convince them that solar would be better and that it's good for the environment. And that's why microgrids are so great, because they use different resources, different types of sources for power. Wow.
Commissioner Scagliotti?
Yeah, I think I have one question. You said you have a meeting with developers. Are they going to be commercial developers, housing developers?
Just
Or,
commercial developers, mainly over by the airport. The airport is very different than most airports. It has a capacity to have through the fence, you can have buildings outside the airport that can have access to the runways by using a thing the FAA approved for our airport to expand the fence of the airport around that particular business. And so that's a big selling point for the airport, and it also helps San Benito County because the taxes for those things. And so it's definitely commercial developers that we're talking to that want to ask questions to PG&E. For instance, if we've been told by PG&E, if you have a property or a current building and it gets vacated and you're waiting to lease it, PG&E takes that power away and you have to reapply for it. And so if you have to reapply for it, but the PG&E capacity has been extended to another developer, then, they have real concerns about that. Do they need to keep the PG&E in their name and just keep it, on? I mean, there are lots of concerns like that PG&E isn't really giving the full story, and yet we hear different points about that. And so we want to make sure that everyone asks the right questions from different points and gets good answers from PG&E, and that we can relay those back and have the right information for everyone.
Well, one more question. Are you really pushing that airport? Because that is a diamond in the rough for
It
this
is.
community to make a lot of money, really good money, county and city.
It's so true. I'm the
Are we
chair of the
pushing it,
Airport
though?
Advisory Commission.
Are you
and-
pushing it?
Yes, I am pushing it. I'm a pilot. I have 2 airplanes at the airport. We have a brand new airport director. I work very closely with them. We're looking at 4 or 5 different businesses to bring in. And so that is the diamond in the rough for our community. So we're definitely pushing it.
What's going on with CDF? How soon is CDF going to start their new base?
That's a state issue, and so they're working on it as soon as, it takes time. They have a 30-year lease on that property over there, and they didn't have to pay for any of it until they started building. So they have no
incentive to move on.
Right.
Thank you.
Rock.
Commissioner Way?
Just a comment. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. It was very instructive and informative, and also recognize that it's forward-looking, and some of the items that were mentioned in there may or may not come to fruition. But, it's nice to know what's on the horizon and what you see as our strengths and weaknesses. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Toledo?
Just a thank you. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And back to public comment.
you.
Is there any last public comment before we close this item?
There is no public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you so much. It's been a pleasure really working for San Benito County, and just wanted to let you know that the Planning Commission logo under my chin, there's missing an S in the commission.
Oh, thank you.
Just notice that.
Huh. Thank you.
Yep.
Next item, 9.1. Hold a public hearing and consider a resolution regarding county planning file PLN 220060, a use to allow for private camping and the operation of Bar SZ Ranch.
Good evening, Chair, Planning Commissioners, and members of the public. I am Victor Tafoya, Assistant Planner with the County of San Benito. Tonight I will be discussing PLN 220060, located at 1983 and 1989 Old Hernandez Road. Tonight I will be discussing the location of the project overview and description, land use consistency with the general plan and zoning code, California Environmental Quality Act, and staff recommendation. As mentioned, the project is located at 1983 and 1989 Old Hernandez Road. The proposed project is located 2 miles east of Highway 25 and 3 miles west of the Pinnacles National Park in an unincorporated area of San Benito County near the unincorporated community of Pisces. The project site is nestled along Old Hernandez Road as part of the expansive Promised Land 1926 LLC ranch spanning approximately 2,300 acres. The ranch envisions operating an agricultural recreational area on a specific portion of the property. The use permit will cover 2 separate uses that will operate independently from each other. Camping facilities will be situated on 1983 Old Hernandez Road, while the event area will be located on 1989 Old Hernandez Road. Access to both the event area and private camping is facilitated by a dirt road leading to a low water crossing over the San Benito River. Both the event area and camping area are positioned on the other side of the low water crossing, deliberately placed amidst the rural and agricultural expanse. The event area and camping seamlessly integrate into the working ranch environment. Harmonizing with the surrounding open fields, notably the recreational area seamlessly becomes part of the working ranch environment. Private camping area situated on APN 028-160-031 covers less than an acre and is accessible from March 15 to November 1st, requiring advanced scheduling. The camping space has no permanent facilities and is designated for individuals seeking camping alternatives when Pinnacles National Park reaches capacity. Basic amenities such as portable restrooms are provided, and campers are expected to bring their own food and tents. This area of the property is located adjacent to the existing residences and outbuildings. The event area is proposed on APN 028-060-009 and is accessible through APN 028-060-031. Features Cowboy Village, an assemble of 4 existing structures and outdoor space. Available for event rentals hosting up to 100 people. Cowboy Village comprising the hitching post, party barn, round pen, docks barn, and a beer truck seating area with fire pit, proposes a maximum of 12 events annually between March 15 and November 1st. No cooking will be done on site. Any event requiring food and alcohol must be catered. As a condition of approval, if alcohol is present and to be served, private security must be arranged at a rate of 1 guard per 50 attendees. No restrooms are available for events. Portable restrooms have to be rented. Parking space is provided on the existing base rock adjacent to Cowboy Village. No events are scheduled from November to February. In case of excessive rain from March 15 to November 1st, events may be canceled. This parcel is in a land conservation contract, but the property owners have applied for and received approval from the LCA committee for this use. Here you have a site photo of the event area known as Cowboy Village, consisting of 4 existing structures and outdoor space, approximately totaling 18,000 square feet. Cowboy Village consists of the hitching post, the party barn, the round pen, docks barn, and the beer truck seating area and fire pit. Here you have a floor plan showcasing Cowboy Village. The proposed project is consistent with the general plan's rangeland land use designation. It is important to note that all proposed uses have to be consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan. The project aligns with general plan policy LU-3.1, the private camping and events characterized by their temporary and low impact nature contribute to diversifying the use of the land without compromising its primary agricultural function. Furthermore, the project aligns with general plan policy LU-3.2 by proposing an agricultural recreational area on a small portion of the working ranch. The project demonstrates a thoughtful approach to integrating non-agricultural uses without compromising the integrity of the overall farming and ranching operations. Additionally, the project aligns with general plan policy ED-5.5. The incorporation of camping and events contributes to the county's goal of incorporating varied recreational opportunities for both residents and visitors. Pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, this project qualifies for the exemptions on the screen. The proposed agricultural recreational area occupies less than an acre on the approximate existing 2,300 acres working ranch and relies on the use of 4 existing buildings for private events, including a barn, a hitching post, a round pen, and seating area. No structure mentioned above exceeds 2,500 square feet in floor size. Furthermore, the project does not involve any significant expansion or alteration of the existing buildings, and the use of the structure for private events is consistent with the recreational uses permitted under agricultural rangeland zoning. Additionally, the proposed project suggests no alteration to the surrounding environment. No mention is made of removing or altering any trees, including healthy, mature, scenic ones. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the staff report, hold a public hearing, and hear any proponents and opponents to the proposed project. Adopt draft resolution, which includes findings and conditions of approval. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Before we go to public comment, do the commissioners have any questions at this time? Okay. Does the applicant have a presentation?
No, but he's here in the audience if you have any questions
Okay.
for them.
We'll go to public comment then. Are there any
Yes,
speakers?
Elias Salinas, please approach the podium. You'll have 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm all about economic development. I think this is great, but it says, I kept hearing will be, when it already has been. I want to make sure, because they have been operating, have they paid everything that they owe to San Benito County? Are there fees that are going to be charged? And if so, how does San Benito County make any money out of this? Are there any all-terrain vehicles that are going to be used? And if so, how many are going to be allowed to be used up there? I can't even read my own writing. Protected. Regarding the fire pit, how close is the water access to, in the event it gets out of control? And you had up there, music off at 12 p.m. Is that correct? I don't understand music off at 12 p.m. I am, like I said, I'm very pro this, but I also know that this company has been operated for one time, and they've been going out there, and San Benito County has been losing money. What are they called, TOCs? Is that what we would collect from something like this?
TOT.
Okay, so, but it protect, God, I wish I could read my own writing. I write my notes without my glasses on. Okay, I guess that's all I have for now, but the most important thing is I don't want to say no to this project. I do want it to continue, but I just want to make sure, how does San Benito County benefit? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
Yes, there's one hand raised via Zoom. Through Zoom, you have been unmuted. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Bracetta. I am a local resident. I live just up the hill from this ranch. I'm all for a wedding venue, but the events that I've seen there have been of a large size. The past couple that were very large is the Solar Festival, and that had, I want to say, a lot more than 200 people and vehicles, and they were just all camped around, just right below the hill there. We have a lack of infrastructure to these roads, so even just having a private campground, if you have a max of 100 people, if you got one person per vehicle, that's 100 cars on our one-lane road. And that doesn't include services for trash and septic systems. So if you're going to be currently having people every day, every weekend, that road's going to be severely impacted. Not only that, but there was a lot of trespassers with the large events that they were illegally operating down there, which I do not agree with. I don't think it's in line with agricultural rangeland, which does, by definition in the code, that it does say that we are an area with a lack of infrastructure. So I really don't like the way the roads are already looking. There's potholes all over the place. And with the addition of more vehicles, I I don't like that. I'm all for a wedding venue and manageable, parties there. But as far as the private campground, I think about the fire hazards that poses in summertime. We live just up the hill. If there's a fire that goes, it's gonna go, and it's gonna go fast. There's a lot of burnable, material out there. And yeah, water resources, and just even getting emergency services out there. So if you need fire trucks and all that, and you got cars all over the road, people don't know where they're going. They don't respect private property or no trespassing signs. They're all over the place. They're being told. They have misinformation. Descend on Pinnacle stated that they weren't allowed to bike ride on property, but there are plenty of riding trails off property. And there was a lot of trespassing, which I didn't appreciate. Out there, a lot of us are kind of private people. And just that area, I don't think the corporate charity events that you state, they're not really corporate charity events, they're large festivals. And I think that's a blanket term that you're using to have events like this of these size. I think if they were a little more manageable, I still think a campground. I don't agree with that. Not a large campground. I don't agree with large events other than a wedding venue and small scalable parties for small events. But
Thank you.
seeing what I've seen, yeah.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
Yes, Ann Hall, please approach the podium. This is an applicant representative, so there is actually no more public comment, and Ann Hall is going to talk on behalf of the applicant.
Okay.
My name is Ann Hall. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant's also here if you have any more questions that I can't answer. But I did want to address some of the comments that came up during public comment. There have been events here prior. The property was red tagged. This use permit is an effort to remove the red tag. There's been a lot of discussion with the county back and forth involving defining what is allowed to happen out there because of some of these issues that people had raised. And I think that the applicant has spent, like I said, the county came down and looked at it. They've spent a lot of time determining what would be an appropriate scale of event, and the intent is to keep that going forward. The events here are limited to 100 people as part of the conditions of approval that you have in front of you. They are limited to number per year. They, like I said, have made an effort to address some of the concerns that were there previously and make this more palatable both to the neighborhood and to the county, and get the use permit and pay the fees they need to do to be in line with the ordinances.
Okay.
Do you have any specific questions?
Not at this time. I'd like to go to Sheriff Taylor and then Chief Bedolla before we ask questions.
Okay, Sheriff Taylor, you've been unmuted.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm also presenting the grand jury right now at a different meeting, so if there's a question for me, I need you to repeat it.
Just in general, do you have any concerns about the project and your ability to get there if anything happens in a timely fashion from a public safety perspective?
I have monitored this family's operation at the former location, and we've never had an issue with it. As a sheriff, I'm supportive of it. I don't see any concerns. I did talk to Tim at length, and he assured me that exactly what they had been doing before at their former location is what they would be continuing to do. They operated there for years and years without one incident or one problem or one effect on public safety. So that's really what I'm comfortable speaking to as the public safety impact. I don't see a negative impact, and I'm supportive.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Chief Bedolla.
Here we go. I'm Charlie Bedolla. I'm the fire marshal for San Benito County, and whether you believe it or not, this is the way I see it. a lot of it's an educational process. And what my job, a lot of people, they like to get their businesses, and most of the time it's an educational process that they need to do to understand it. My job isn't to red tag you, but my job is help you to get there so you can be successful at what you do. We did have some issues. We took care of them. We mitigated it. We worked with them. We have a very good working relationship with out there. We've actually improved the fire protection down there. We've established an LZ down there. They have a good established water out there. We're going to improve on the fire protection on a couple of the facilities already. It's already in process, so the residents will be safe that are in there and that they're staying there. And then I'm going to take CAL FIRE down there and the fire chief so they can at least get their eyes on that and say, hey, we could draft some water out of this creek because they have a good pad for it. So we wouldn't have to suck the water out of their wells dry, but we do have it in there, and they have a sufficient amount right now of infrastructure already set up there. The roadways do meet our standards. The water meets our standards, and the access meets our standards. So yeah.
Okay, so there's sprinklered if the buildings are sprinklered if they are required to, and there's water storage tanks if you need to pump out of the tanks, or?
They have way more water than what's required for each of the residents.
Okay.
So honestly, they only need 5,000 gallons of water, and they have right now 25 on one part and 30 on the other part. So, and then we'll be able to, and as we establish, like I said, the residents that they're going to use to rent, they're already established, they're already installing residential sprinkler systems in there because it's there. It will take a little bit of time. Like we were talking about, okay, so if you have a medical emergency there, it's going to take an hour for an ambulance to get there. But they'll have an established pad, and we'll set up our lat and longs for the helicopter. So CalSTAR will be able to get there. They'll be able to start providing care initially way before we even get there. So I think that's a great, plus if you're having horseback riding or people fall or slip, most likely they're going to need CalSTAR anyway. So it's a good, safe LZ for them to go ahead and utilize, and us too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any questions for the chief or the sheriff before we go to the applicant or his representatives?
I just have one question. The entrance and egress, it's a small road. If you're coming in there with a big truck and there's a situation going on there, people are going to be leaving. So you'll be.
How do I say? I'm really, really, really picky about that. I took my wheel out there. I measured it, and it's 20 feet. It meets fire access roadway all the way through out there. I nitpicked it, and it meets it paved all the way through out there. I tried. Nobody meets it. It does. It's safe. And that's why we go 20 feet, so we could have engines going in and engines going out.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I have one question. Who calls CalSTAR if somebody crashes off a horse down there and breaks their leg? They have the ability through a satellite phone to call CalSTAR? How do you guys communicate that with them down there being so far away to get CalSTAR fired up and coming?
Well, usually they'll probably have a landline where they can call out, and they'll make a call. There you go. And they have AT&T coverage down
Call
there.
the fire department here in Hollister, and then you dispatch? How does that work? Ambulance dispatches? I mean, you just don't call
No, you call 911, and then we'll make that determination based on the call. If it's someone that has a hurt leg, we're not going to call CalSTAR. But if it's something that's traumatic, like we do any part of the county, we'll already get them going, and then we'll preset it up with CalSTAR. Hey, if you get any incidents out here, we do have an LZ that you could utilize. So we're going to send them the lat, the longs. We're setting up a windsock out there for the emergency purposes only.
How long for you to get out there for ambulance, and how long for you to get out there with a fire truck?
Right, it depends. Well, it's about at least 45 minutes.
Minimum.
Yeah, minimum. But that's like Pinnacles too. It takes a long time for us to get out to Pinnacles. And we get calls at Pinnacles all the time.
More like an hour and a half where you're going for them.
No.
Old Hernandez Road?
They're right there, right off it. We frequented it often.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I'm like, oh, that's not that bad.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Are there any questions for staff or the applicant at this time? I have a list, but I'll go last. Commissioner Toledo?
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Victor. I appreciate the sheriff and the fire chief. They answered pretty much all my questions and concerns because the quality of life of our residents is most important to all of us. And I believe just the only concern now is neighbors. There maybe if you, I'm not sure if you have trespassing signs or maybe any signs that can just be put up to not disturb the neighbors around the area or something. And I appreciate the emergency trauma kits too, so that's very important. Thank you.
Commissioner Way?
Well, I'm not sure if this is the time to bring it up. I have an issue with one of the conditions of approval that I'd like to have modified slightly. So.
Sure.
Okay. Condition 16 is altogether too vague in my humble opinion. In particular, the issue, I'm fine with the amplified music shall cease at 12 a.m. That's clear, that's specific. The issue is that the amplified music should be turned down at 10 p.m. How much? You know, is it sufficient to just turn it down a little? Or, you know, is there some way to quantify that?
I have a solution for that later on.
Okay.
We'll tackle that one.
All right.
Was there any other?
That's all I had.
Okay. Commissioner Ringhayden?
Yeah, I just, if there are violations, what would the penalties be? Like, if you had a party that was out of control, or if there was any violations, how does that work?
So they originally had a code enforcement case at the time that this conditional use permit is approved. Our code enforcement officer will send the invoice for the code enforcement violation fees.
The process should, though, at some point, if there's an egregious enough offense, the planning commission would be notified and we could have a revocation hearing, correct?
Yes, that's written in our zoning ordinance for
Okay.
the modification or revocation of a use permit.
Okay.
And I think I'm not sure, the sound, is there a decibel level and a time where, I heard midnight, but is there a decibel level and a time?
We do have a zoning, a sound ordinance that they would have to comply, and I believe it's a condition of approval. So it does say the decibels.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the people that live in that area, I'm sure they don't want to hear that late at night.
Yes, agreed.
One of the benefits of living out in the wilderness, you don't want to hear noise. Commissioner, is there anything else, Commissioner Ringhayden?
That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Scagliotti.
Yes, I have a couple concerns. Security personnel requirements, only 1 per 50. That far out, and if you get some rowdy people, you need more than that. I'd like to see it 1 for 25 or 1 for 20. I'd like to have that changed if that's possible.
That could be a possibility. That condition was provided by the sheriff's office, and that's how it was written.
Okay. I still think that's not enough, but that's fine.
Well, we can discuss it when we...
Okay. And then property markings. How far apart are the no trespassing signs, and on what side of the fence are they stapled? Are they stapled on the applicant's side of the fence, or are they stapled on the other people's side of the fence? So these people are out there running around, and I've heard there's been a lot of problems with that. Know where that property boundary is. How far apart are those property markings? No trespassing sign or do not enter signs. How far apart are they?
I'm not aware of the any signs indicating that, but
If you could come up, please. For the record, this is the applicant coming to the podium.
Could you state your name, please?
Yes, my name is Tim Borland. Yep, thank you. When we first initially started, we wanted folks to be able to go hiking in the backcountry. We thought that was a reasonable thing we could allow them to do, but we came to find that, you know, it only takes one to ruin it for everyone else. And we had a couple that decided not to stay within the boundaries, and when we clearly stated if you climb through or over a barbed wire fence, you're not on our property anymore, and well, they did so. So we've changed anytime somebody shows up, if they're just, just an Airbnb guest, hey, can we hike here? We say, nope, go to the Pinnacles. We're not a hiking ranch anymore. If you want to hike, go to the Pinnacles. So to answer your question, Robert, anywhere there's a gate, a perimeter gate, it's on our side, and there's a no trespassing sign. Even our inner perimeter gates that would take them further into the backcountry. So we're putting up, I bought a bunch of no trespassing signs, and I'm putting them on the perimeter gates. Now, do I need to have a no trespassing sign every 100 yards on the barbed wire fence? I mean, I don't, but the deal is they're not going to be able to go. We have big gates that keep you from the backcountry. So we have a big backcountry gate that if we put a no trespassing sign, and that gate's closed for cattle anyways, so we keep a sign on there. The guests can't go through that gate. They can't trespass. We have one gate to Pellegrini's. We have a no trespassing sign there. So other than the challenges, they go down the road, and then you get down into Pellegrini's and Frisetta's down Old Hernandez, and there's no fences along the roads. And so we've heard people go down the road, and then they end up drifting off of the road. And so we're also, there's right now a no trespassing sign right at the cattle guard that says don't trespass into our place, but I'd really like to actually move that further onto the road. And so we're trying to tell people, if they say, where can we go to hike or ride our bike? I tell them, go hike at the Pinnacles, and if you want to ride your bike, you can go out of the gate and turn right and go out, towards the highway, but you can't go left. That's Old Hernandez Road is private. You can't go down there and ride your bike, because then cows were coming out and people were riding their bikes, and their cows are getting disrupted, and that obviously is not good for the neighbors. So please know that didn't realize that we had caused such a ruckus. And like Charlie was saying, unfortunately, we're learning the hard way. You just try to invite some people for an Airbnb stay out on the ranch, and before you know it, they're scaling fences and going onto the neighbor's property, and we can't be as accommodating at letting them just go hike. So now, if you want to hike, go to the Pinnacles.
That simplifies the issue.
It
Okay.
really does, and it's a beautiful park. So go hike there.
Is there sufficient signage on the road to let them know to go into the appropriate gates or gate?
To come into our ranch?
Into the ranch?
Yes.
So that they don't go past the ranch?
Correct. We have a reflective sign. You all have seen a reflective sign with the name, with our name, also 1989 Old Hernandez Road, with a big arrow that says turn left. So I think we've mitigated, and we have Bar SC Ranch on Google Maps as a pin right at the front gate. So anytime somebody comes, they have to use that pin to get to our front gate.
Okay.
So please know that we're desperately doing everything we can, just to be at peace with our neighbors and make sure that we don't cause a stir and a ruckus.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
One more question. Do you live on the premises?
Yes, ma'am, full
Okay.
time with my wife and my 3 kids.
Perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we're always there, or at least, well,
You have more questions?
someone is always there.
Or are you going to unleash me?
I'm gonna leash you.
Okay.
You want me to stay here, Robert?
Condition 8, the county business license. Do you have a business license?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you collecting and remitting the TOT on the campsite and the guest houses?
Apparently, it's anything other than Airbnb. So Airbnb collects TOTs
Automatically.
and pay. We have to pay anything we collect that's not through Airbnb.
Okay. In the campsite, is that tents and/or RVs? What kind of camping is that?
Well, we're still trying to solve that. I don't have hookups, so it was just going to be dry camping for some RVs. And I do have 2 glamping tents that we put up that have beds in them, and then people could just pitch their own tent. So we were trying to have a combination of fixed glamping tents, pitch your own tent, or just pull in an RV, but it's dry camping only. There's no hookups.
Okay. And no fires, campfires allowed or anything like that?
Well, there's been that common area fire pit, and I don't want my ranch to burn down. I mean, I hope people would know that we care more about our property than anyone else. We're not going to let people just have wildfires on our ranch. We have a cattle business, and if we burn the grass,
it's expensive.
We don't have any food for our cattle. So please know it's on gravel. It's away from, the grasses.
And the maximum event capacity, 100 attendees. Did you have Solora Fest last year?
Not this last year. No, we canceled it.
Okay.
So I yeah, apologize for that, but I honored the request and we canceled it.
Okay.
Yep.
Maximum event frequency 12 per year, and that's between March 15th and November 1st. That's fine. Condition 13 under activities. No additional activities shall be permitted without prior approval from the relevant authorities. I would like to insert the words Planning Commission, because relevant authorities doesn't mean anything to me. It's rather vague.
That could be my son.
It could be anybody. So I would like to replace relevant authorities with the Planning Commission, please. Hours of operation. The hours of operation may vary with the event, but all amplified music shall be turned down at 10 and ceased at midnight. If I lived out in the country and I heard something blaring at midnight, you would not have a happy neighbor. I think amplified music should be ceased at 8 p.m. And if you want to play a guitar, that's fine, but don't have it amped up, in my humble opinion. What does the Planning Commission think about that? I mean, these people are living out in what some people may refer to as God's country, not to be disturbed
Can I interject?
by your property. Go ahead.
We've got the same owners on both sides. Louis Pellegrini is to the east-ish of us, and then he's also part of a group that owns the property to the west of us. I've talked to all of our neighbors. We've actually tested sound. I've asked everybody. Again, we're not trying to upset our neighbors. We're not trying to ruffle feathers. We're trying to test the boundaries. If there's amplified music in certain areas of the ranch till midnight, does that bother the neighbors or not? And, you know, we can talk to the neighbors again, but I've talked to all my neighbors and they've all assured me that if we found a spot where the music works just fine and it hasn't been bothering them. But again, I've talked to all my neighbors and I really am trying to be, you know, the best, trying to be a good neighbor and understand from them what what bothers them and what doesn't, and what they can hear. And
How many other neighbors do you have other than the one that called around that you said
What's your
you've spoken?
closest neighbor that is not an owner of the project, roughly?
Well, it'd be Pellegrini, and he's on both sides of me, so a mile-ish, and then you've got Frasetta on the other side of Pellegrini, and then you've got the schoolhouse, Jefferson School, and then you've got...
Okay, so more than a mile.
Yeah, more than a mile. So I've talked to everybody within our area, and...
The default for the noise ordinance, what is the cease time?
It's consistent with what they're proposing, so at CSUN it's 12 a.m.
So midnight?
Midnight, yeah.
For amplified music in the county?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, I assure you, if our neighbors complained about that, please know that, you know, we're not trying to please our guests. We care more about being in good company with our neighbors than we do about, you know, some stranger coming in for the weekend.
Okay. I had concerns about the signage and trespassing, but it sounds like you've taken care of that issue. And I just also was concerned about the collection and the remittance of the TOT, but it sounds like there's a clear understanding of what is expected from the applicant. Okay.
Yep.
And the guest houses are still being rented out. They're not residential long-term stays. They're still short-term?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Before we wrap up, is there any other questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Way?
Yeah, if we're going to leave the midnight for the amplified music, then I really need some clarification on this business about it being turned down at 10 p.m. because to me that doesn't mean anything.
No.
That's fine. Is that something we can report on?
But we'd have to change the language in the condition.
Right, we can put in an actual decibel
Turn down
level.
how much, you know?
I got one for Rich. How about at sundown, all amplified music ceases?
At sundown?
Sundown.
Well, in the summer, that
could be 9 o'clock. You're
Yeah.
close to your 10.
But does it? I mean, given the information that he's given us about the neighbors, and taking that at face value, it sounds like we might be restricting it unnecessarily if we did that.
Okay. Well, I thought you were going to get it sooner down.
Well,
He just wants-
I either want the business about it being turned down at 10 stricken,
I'll second that.
or ideally, if not stricken, it needs to be clarified because as written, it doesn't mean anything.
Correct.
take it out. Remove
Okay.
it. Make it midnight.
If there's nobody within a mile and you're letting the
Can we-
music play till midnight anyway.
Right, can we just,
Okay.
just cut that off and just say music down?
So we'll delete the words "be turned down at 10 p.m." and just have it "shall be ceased at midnight"
Yeah.
or 12
Okay.
a.m.
That would be great, I appreciate it, and
And
we
the only
follow
other
neighbor- yep.
the only other change to the language was for me was condition 13, that approval from the planning commission for any
Right.
additional activities.
Right.
Other than that, I'm satisfied with what has been presented, as long as we stick to the plan.
I have a question.
Commissioner Scagliotti?
Talking maybe getting this bigger in the future, so are you talking about septic systems for the RVs to have a dumping station? Are you thinking about doing that in the future?
It's not in the plan right now. We just decided to keep the plan simple and straightforward, so not looking to expand it right now. If we do, we're gonna have to go through the whole use permit process again.
Environmental health and,
That's
yep,
correct.
okay. Sheriff Taylor?
Thank you.
Can I ask for clarification on, sorry.
Sheriff Taylor, you should be able to speak.
I just wanted to jump in real quick and explain that, and I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence here, but we do also have a penal code of 415 that you cannot disturb somebody's peace. So whether or not this permit says that he can go till midnight, if at any time a neighbor is inconvenienced, their peace is being disturbed by any music or activity there, we would respond and tell them that they needed to turn down the music and or cease the music. And permit or not, you can't be exempt from the penal code. So I think it's important what you all are doing by not giving unnecessary restrictions that you wouldn't give to somebody else. I'm supportive of that, but I just wanted you all to know that there is another mechanism that if for some reason it got out of hand out there, or something got too loud, or someone was being inconvenienced, we do still have other remedies to take care of that.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Yeah, the conditions are more for us to have leverage if need be, but I appreciate the clarification. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Toledo?
Just to clarify, there are portable restrooms. I know you stated that, but I just want to make sure.
That is correct.
Okay, just to make sure that people can go. Thank you.
Okay, what is the will of the commission?
One comment of, will there be any modifications for the security guard condition? Is it one for 50 or one for 25?
If the sheriff is satisfied.
If sheriff's happy, then I'm happy. Just didn't know where that number came from.
Ann, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you changed there's something in there saying if there were single larger events to be considered that you wanted it to come back to the planning commission?
I referred to condition 13, that if there was any change in activities, that they would have to be approved by the planning commission.
Okay, that, I guess is, okay.
Because relevant authorities is as vague as turning down music. And in these particular cases, I believe we're the relevant authority.
My only question on that was, some of the discussion revolved around if there was a one-time event that exceeded it, like say there was a one-time event that was gonna go to 200 people, that the discussion was they could apply for a temporary use permit for that single event. And temporary use permits are typically administrative permits through the staff rather than something that comes back to the planning commission. So I think, I understand if they're gonna expand it or in any way change this use permit, it would definitely have to come back to the planning commission. But I just wanna clarify, if they're applying for a single event temporary use permit, can that still be handled through staff like most
Sure,
temporary use permits?
that's a separate permit. I would hope that
Okay.
staff would be very conscientious about what they're doing with those approvals, but yes,
Okay,
it's a
I just
separate
wanted to
issue.
be sure I was
Mr. Chair, yeah, and we would involve the fire department and the sheriff department as well within those conversations on any temporary use permits.
If it's gonna be a regular thing, then I think it should come back to the planning commission to discuss the impacts, but a one-off can be staff approved. Any other comments or questions, or are we gonna get a motion here?
Commissioner Gibson, there was a late arrival. Andrew Pellegrini is online and has raised his hand. Would you like to hear his comment?
Sure.
Okay. Andrew, Oh, oops. I unmuted the wrong person, sorry. Andrew, you should have permissions to talk now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Andrew Pellegrini. My father is Louis, that Tim had mentioned. My family owns the property next door. I just wanted to speak to the noise. That has not really been an issue at all. We're far enough away from them that it's never been an issue. You know, we have friends down there. We make noise as well, but you know, I think to Tim's point, if they couldn't have, you know, I had my wedding with the Borlands, and a wedding that the music has to be cut off at 8 p.m. wouldn't be very fun. So just wanted to hop in here and say that hasn't been an issue at all.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll move to approve the,
With the changes?
With the changes that we've discussed.
Okay. Is that sufficient for council? Is that clear enough direction?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Next item. Hold a public hearing and consider adopting a resolution regarding planning file PLN 230007 minor subdivision tentative parcel map.
Hi, good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners and members of the public. My name is Ariel Goodspeed, Principal Planner, and I will be presenting on behalf of Assistant Planner Jonathan Livis tonight. As mentioned, this is our county file PLN 230007, minor subdivision along Santa Ana Valley Road. We will be going over the location of this minor subdivision, project description, the California Environmental Quality Act determination, our land use consistency, and staff's recommendation tonight on this project. As mentioned, it is along Santa Ana Valley Road. For those not as familiar in the audience, it's approximately 4 miles east of downtown Hollister, and you can see it on the project site in red. So the proposed project is to take a 19.42 acre parcel and divide it into 3 parcels. Parcel 1 is approximately 5.43 acres and is currently undeveloped. Parcel 2 is 5.44 acres. There is an existing well, but no residents or other infrastructure. And the remaining parcel, Parcel 3, is 8.55 acres. Parcel 1 aligns with Santa Ana Valley Road. Access will be a single driveway with the cul-de-sac at the end that will allow all 3 parcels to connect. You will find in the conditions of approval there will be a no access strip along Santa Ana Valley, and there also will be acceleration along the entrance as described in the Public Works conditions. So a few site photos for those that haven't been out there. This is the site, Santa Ana, and it's basically facing north towards Pacheco Pass in the distance. It's viewing, you can see on this next site facing east towards the Diablo Range in the back, and that in the picture is the neighboring development of lots that were approved back in 2007, but it's off the property as a neighboring parcel. This is another site view. It's the project facing south towards Santa Ana Valley Road. You can see the well infrastructure as we had described previously. That's the blue in the middle. In the back, you are seeing Santa Ana Valley Road, and it's the view of the lower elevation before the hill in the distance. The project site facing west towards Fairview Road, and you can see the neighboring residents. Land use consistency, it is currently designated ag in our general plan and ag productive in our zoning ordinance. It is, as described in the staff report, it was found to be consistent with 3.12 agricultural viability of small parcels. The parcel had already been broken up to 19 acres and was, and further subdivision isn't going to take out. And it's not currently, it has at one point been grazing land from my understanding, but it's not currently at the moment. And zoning allows similar uses without the subdivision. The ag designation, and as described in the staff report, the ag designation was done as approved in 2006, and equivalent to the A district and current general plan land use map from 2015. Was simply an error of omitting the redesignation of the general plan designation change from 2005 and the zone change that from the 2006 records. CEQA, it was found to be exempt under section 15061 common sense exception. Essentially, our zoning and the designation allows one residence per 5 acres. Per our designation and zoning, it could have up to 3 residences. As it stands now with the 19 acres, it's not increasing density by dividing. The only addition would be ADUs, which are exempt from density requirements per state law. In addition, the improvements, so 15301 existing facilities, the wells already there, and the minor ground disturbance activities for improvements of the driveway or entrance were found to be exempt under CEQA guidelines. So ultimately tonight, staff's recommendation is to review the staff report, the draft resolution, including findings, conditions, approval, receive public comment, and adopt the resolution, including findings to approve minor subdivision. PLN 230007, subject to the conditions of approval found in the resolution. I did want to mention that Ann Hall, representing the applicant, is here tonight for any questions and might know the project a little bit better than myself.
Okay, before we go to public comment, I just had one question about the turnaround. It was 40 feet, and is that a standard width for a turnaround for a fire truck?
It was found, it was reviewed by our Public Works Administrator and conditioned appropriately. It did go through fire review as well, and I believe it to be consistent with our code. I do have Steve Lupin here as well, who can maybe add.
I want to hear from fire if 40 feet's sufficient for a fire truck.
Okay.
Since
I
it's
will
out in
try.
the rural part of the county.
Yeah, hi, this is Charlie, again, Charlie Bedoya, your fire marshal. I'll reevaluate that, because it might have to be 50, but if it meets the code, and it might be, right, Ann? Okay, I'll check it out with the code, and if it needs to get enlarged, then that's just something they'll have to do, and they should do it.
Okay.
Right there, so we do have it according to code, so I'll make sure that we can get the proper turnaround in there.
Okay.
Whether it be the cul-de-sac or a hammerhead or what needs to be, but we'll make sure we'll be able to fit it through there.
Okay, thank you. I know I wouldn't want to drive one of those trucks through the streets. I took a gooseneck through some of them, and the people are perpendicular parking in those, and it's like, what would a fire truck do? Okay, thank you. Public comment. Is there any public comment in the chambers?
Yes, Elias Salinas, please approach the podium. You'll have 3 minutes.
So if you were not at the if you weren't at the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday or didn't listen in, you would know that there are probably 2 supervisors that are wanting to change it to a minimum parcel of 40 acres that would not be allowed to be subdivided. So I'm against that. I think this is great. If somebody wants to subdivide the property and they follow the rules, and they can do whatever they want, as far as I'm concerned, because there's policies and procedures that have to be done. Whether or not this individual with dividing these parcels are going to sell it individually, or whether they're going to have their children or grandchildren live there, that's entirely up to them. But I will say that should the track continue to go towards what those 2 supervisors want to do, you're going to have folks lining up the door wanting to subdivide their properties. So just beware. And I think you should approve this. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I know that there was a project where the turnabout was not as big as this is right now, but it was told like they could do a 3, whatever it's called.
A 3-point turn?
3-point turn. This seems that they'd be fine with this as well. But anyway, I just, putting it out there that you might be getting rid of the people, and I think you should continue. These people should continue to do what it is that they have to do, either to sell because they want to make money, or they need the money, or they don't want to take care of the property anymore, or they want to give it to their children or grandchildren. So thank you.
Thank you.
There is no more public comment in the chambers or via Zoom. The applicant's representative would like to speak once you close public comment.
Public comment is closed. Thank you. Ms. Hall, if you could please come up to the podium.
Hi, Ann Hall, with San Benito Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. We really have no issues with the conditions, with one exception. But I did want to answer your question. I believe the turnaround as drawn is sufficient, but whatever is, the fire department wants is fine. We don't have an issue with that.
Okay.
My only comment was on condition 42. This driveway is proposed to be in an easement. It's not a dedication, and that is reflected in the other conditions. They have to do a private road maintenance even. But this was added, it is my experience that you can't assign a street name to an easement, only to a dedication. And since we're not dedicating, I don't believe this condition applies.
Okay. We will ask the engineer to clarify.
Yeah, so.
Steve, could you please speak on condition 42 if it's needed? I don't know if you heard Ann's comment.
Yeah, 42 is street name, but this is it's not a dedication, it's a easement on private property, and there is a condition in there about the private road maintenance, and, yeah, okay. So we're agreeing to do the private road maintenance, it's shown as an easement, it's not required to be dedicated, so I don't think it needs a street name.
Okay, I understand the question. That's correct. I agree.
Okay, so the answer from the county engineer is that we can strike condition 42. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the commission. Are there any comments, questions, concerns? Commissioner Way?
Hey, I'm among the people who was not at the Board of Supervisors meeting, and nor have I had an opportunity to watch it online. In any event, I'm somewhat confused as to how this particular item, and it sounds like it is this particular property, ended up before the Board of Supervisors prior to going through the Planning Commission, and, you know, maybe if I watch the meeting, it'll become abundantly clear, but it seems like the opposite of the way that things are ordinarily done.
I can clarify that if you like. This particular project was not before the board yesterday. We were going, our joint meeting that we had last June, and then the presentation we did in November to follow up, just general plan policies overall was what was discussed yesterday.
Okay, thank
and
you.
so just, it was a summarizing those conversations at those two meetings. So
Yeah,
I hope that clarifies.
Yes, thank you.
The general plan amendment and the rezoning were done in 2005 or 2006, if I recall.
Absolutely, yes.
Any other comments, questions from the commissioners before I go? No? Commissioner Scagliotti?
Yes, stormwater retention plan. What are they gonna do about the stormwater retention? Where's the water gonna go that comes off those roofs and down the driveway? We can't put it on Santa Ana Valley Road, so do you have a retention pond you're gonna use?
Yes. So if you look at condition number 33, stormwater retention plan, it states that if a disturbed area exceeds 1 acre, the applicant shall be responsible for complying with the California State Water Resources Control Board construction stormwater general permit, in parentheses, general permit, as amended. File a complete notice of intent package and develop a stormwater pollution prevention plan, or SWIPI, also known as, conforming to the general permit. Waste discharge identification, also known as WDID. Number of road sensitivity waivers shall be provided to the Public Works Division prior to start of any construction activities as part of this project. A note to this effect shall be added on the improvement plans that are reviewed.
It says 1 acre. So how
That-
much is gonna get covered with the houses? They're gonna be 10,000 square foot houses? They're gonna be 2,500 square foot houses?
And can come
I don't
answer.
want the water going on Santa Ana Valley Road, period.
Or currently, there's no houses proposed as part of this subdivision, but at the time of construction. So, Steve.
That's correct. Steve Loop, Public Works Administrator. So the way it works is when someone, let's say they want to build a 10,000 square foot house, there is a calculation. They do kind of this miniature, well, not miniature, but a small trench detention, retention detail around the home just to offset the roof. And that's the way it's typically mitigated. Now, if there's a bunch of hardscape and whatnot, then that's taken into consideration so that we have to mitigate that. But if it's just a home, there's actually a special home trench detention detail that goes along the side of the house.
Yeah, but the subdivision across the street and down the road just a little ways, Portola Road or wherever that is, it has all kinds of water runoff it when you have a big storm. This is just right across the street. So you can put more water on Santa Ana Valley Road that we don't need going down Santa Ana Valley Road?
Well, I don't know if
That
there's any
that wasn't done properly.
but there's,
Where are you gonna, that water can't go on Santa Ana Valley Road.
I don't, there's any other, right, there's a pond for the road, and there's no other structures proposed. So I don't know if that answers the question. So.
But the subdivision is for a purpose, I would assume at some point, something will be built.
Somebody's gonna build a house.
So right now, on the map, we do show a detention pond, which will be, in the water from the road that's being constructed is being directed to the detention pond. Here in the low corner of the property. This property flows this way, and we show a swale coming down and going across and directing the water from the road to the pond. And then, at the time of a house being built, when a house is being built, they're required to do additional stormwater to accommodate the roof and any hardscapes and any additional driveway they put in. And that's when it goes through the building department, they're required to show that. And we typically do an individual grading plan for that house at that time. So they are required under county ordinance to deal with their stormwater.
For how big of a storm event?
Well, here, the county ordinances are actually stricter than the state ordinance in that
they require you to address any increase in impervious surface. The state ordinance has a lower limit of 2,500 square feet. The county requires it for any increase in impervious surface, and it's based on a difference between the 10 year pre-development and 100-year post-development.
And that will apply to the houses at the time the houses apply for a building permit. So if we get our ordinance corrected, that will take effect at the time, correct? We have time before there's a house that's
Your
proposed to be
ordinance
built.
is stricter than the state.
Yeah, the
So,
plan is to make
I
it
don't
more
think you're
strict.
gonna correct it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions before I go? Okay. I have concerns with condition 27. So there was a previous deferred improvement agreement for the previous split. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is the next project.
Page 130,
20.
recorded document number 2008-001, condition 27.
Oh, my apologies.
So if the previous subdivision had a deferred improvement agreement, why is there nothing for this split?
No, it is required. The following improvement shall be constructed, which is, if you read A, half of the 28-foot.
But that was a deferred improvement agreement from 2008. Now they're requesting additional splits, so there should be something required for these current splits, in my humble opinion.
So this came from Public Works. I can have Steve come up to address, but in their review, this was what was required out of this split.
Well, I'd like to see the full width of the property. Upon sale of the first sale or transfer of the first lot, that the full width of the road be done for the entire length of the property along the frontage.
Okay. Full.
And that's a standard theme, by the way. So going forward, until we get our codes updated, there's going to be a standard theme where the county is not subsidizing development. Is there any discussion from the Planning Commission regarding changing the language of that particular condition? A consensus? Any,
Consent, we change that language and make them
or
pay
do
for
you,
it.
or do you want to go beyond the frontage of the property?
We can. Maybe we should go about 1,000 feet on each side. Can do that.
No opinion from, no strong opinion. Okay, well, at a minimum, I would like to see it the full width of the road along the entire frontage of the property.
I will correct the wording on A to read full instead of half.
Okay.
Should we
Can
take
I
into
clarify?
consideration, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh,
go ahead,
I'm
Celeste.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Commissioner, can I clarify frontage of the road? You're saying frontage of this?
No,
Okay.
no, of Santa Ana Valley
Santa
Road,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so
along the entire property.
if you pull up the screen, this length of Santa Ana Valley Road along parcel 1. Okay.
Is that acceptable to the commission?
Yes. and
Okay.
I have something. It looks like to me there's a bend right there on the corner of that property. Is that a bend right there on the St. Anna Valley Road?
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
So that's a radius. So what we're doing is having the dedicated frontage so that if the parcel next door is improved, this curve would accommodate a 55-mile-an-hour radius. And so that's what that is. That's the bend.
Oh, okay.
We want to make sure that was dedicated. It doesn't have to be paved now, but just that it's dedicated.
You're going to ease the curve at some point?
Yeah, so right, if these folks ever develop, then we have that right away, so we
Okay.
can.
Isn't that
a
already
gradual
developed?
curve.
Isn't that already developed on that side? Isn't there already 5 acre parcels there already?
Well, yeah, but I mean, if they subdivide.
Oh, okay, so in other words, we're gonna leave that road like it is.
Until the
Until
neighbors
it's subdivided, we'll
subdivide.
just have the right of way, yeah, so that's correct, just the right of way.
And should we take into consideration some, monies that they should put in towards maybe improving Santa Ana Valley and Fairview Road at some point? Should we put some,
Will, the,
Anything on that
will
for that?
those impact fees be collected at the time of the building permits are issued? Can we do any additional, request any additional funds to cover improving the road? That's a question for council.
What's the question? Can you just add a,
Above and beyond what the impact fees would be, can we request additional work on the road? Other than
I
what
mean, there
we've
needs to be a
already-
nexus between what you're requesting and what's, you know, and there needs to be a nexus between what you're requesting and
Okay.
the property, yeah.
So the changing of condition 27 should be sufficient for the time being. Any other questions, or is there a motion with the language to change condition 27?
motion with the language that can change condition 27?
Okay, is there a second?
The applicant, Ann Hall, would like to speak, if that's okay.
Okay. If you could please come to the podium so we have you on the record. Thank you much.
I just wanted to clarify condition 42 that we discussed to make
Oh.
sure it's part of the motion.
Yes, if you could amend your motion that we will also delete condition 42.
I amend my motion to delete item 42.
Okay, there we go. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item.
Hi, Ariel Goodspeed. I will be assisting Jonathan Levis on presenting County PLN file PLN 230006, a minor subdivision located at 120 Enterprise Road. Again, we will be going through the minor subdivision's location, project description, California Environmental Quality Act, determination, land use consistency, and staff's recommendation tonight. As mentioned, 120 Enterprise Road, it is kind of southeast of downtown Hollister, about 2.5 miles away. It is highlighted in red. The cross street is south side, and just to the south is the Bennett Ranch subdivision, and just to the west is the Sunnyside subdivision for reference. So the proposed project is to divide an existing 7.51 acre parcel into 3 lots, all approximately about 2.5 acres. Parcel 1 and Parcel 2 both already have an existing residence and septic systems. Parcel 3 is currently undeveloped and would remain undeveloped. Parcel 1 and 2 currently have a common driveway off of Enterprise Road to access those 2 residences on site, and that would remain. Parcel 3, if ever developed and not proposed at this time, would have its own separate entrance. This is a closer up of what I described of the 3 parcels. So a few site photos for those who haven't been out to the site. This is the location facing north towards Enterprise Road. And this is the project site facing east, so towards Quail Hollow or the future Vista del Calabria development. As you can see, they are working on the Vista del Calabria is working on their grading in this photo. And then this is the site photo facing south, so on the proposed boundary of parcel 2 and 3. Appaloosa Way is beyond the crest of the hill. That's in the development project. And then this is a site So it's facing west towards Sunnyside Estates. South side, so right beneath the fence lines is South Side Road for reference, and that is the Sunnyside Estates residence. So currently is in the general plan designated residential mixed. And the zoning was changed previously to R1, and that's it allows for our residential mix allows anywhere from 1 to 20 acres, and there is no minimum lot size requirement for our RM, and our R1 zoning allows for the density described of 2.5 acres, and it's not going to increase the land use that's currently allowed now. As mentioned in the earlier, so this qualified for CEQA exemptions, 15.61 common sense exemption. As we discussed, there's currently already 2 residences. There would only be 1 additional residence or ADUs, which again are not a part of the state density requirements. There's no disruptions of environmental sensitivity, and current zoning allows for the same level of intensity. And then in addition, 15.301 existing facilities, the existing improvements to existing roadways or minor ground disturbance activities are all covered under this exemption and would not trigger any additional environmental review. We did, from the time the packet was produced to tonight, we did receive public comments on 2 items. The neighbor, and I kind of highlighted the parcel in yellow, their representative, and the applicant representing tonight, and it had to do with condition number 23, the improvement agreement that was prior to the recordation of the parcel map. So essentially the neighboring parcel owner, Tim Johnson's representative, had raised concerns with this condition, Part A specifically, and in front of you is the deferred improvement agreement. So you can reference that there, but I'll go over basically the highlights. So it says that due to the 75% Garcia and 25% Johnson share of improvements stipulated in the deferred improvement agreement, so per the agreement, any further subdivision or sale by either owner triggers both improvements along Enterprise Road and Southside Road as described in the above. And it's recorded document, which is in front of you, number 2017-000072. And it is worth noting that this agreement had been deferred twice already. The subdivision of Bennett Ranch, the remainder, and then the division of approximately about 10 acres into this like 7 and 3 acre parcel. So I know the neighbor's representative and the applicant may wish to speak on this particular condition and ask that the improvements along Southside Road either be deferred or that they do not, or their contribution of the 25% be deferred. Currently, as it stands, staff left the condition in place because the existing recorded document, at this time said we needed to include that condition, but the Planning Commission can determine what's appropriate at this time to include. The other condition so it's condition number 20, other water source. There had been a concern there currently is a shared well between the Johnson property and the Garcia property, and there had been, I guess, a comment received that they did not want the additional subdivision. But if you know, the project is being proposed to connect to Sunny Slope County Water District, and so and we'll defer to allow the alternative water source. However, in the event that the state small water system is required to service the development, Sunny Slope County Water District does not supply the permit of such a system, and the developer shall take steps to connect to the public utility. So that's the condition. We, staff just felt that there wasn't more to state on that comment, because it wasn't part of the current proposed project of water source being used, but we just felt to note what was comments received from the public.
Okay.
And neighboring. And this just shows the deferred improvement agreement, what is required for them to improve. It's so this is along Southside and Enterprise. So on Enterprise, a 60-foot right of way and to 10-foot extension and 10-foot face to curb. And I do have my Public Works Administrator here who can talk about roads all day. And improvements.
We will have questions for Steve later.
So I'll defer.
Okay.
And my staff's recommendation is to review the staff report, the draft resolution, and findings and conditions approval. Receive any public comment tonight. Adopt the resolution, including the findings to approve the minor subdivision 230006, subject to the conditions approval found in the resolution, unless, as noted, the commission finds certain conditions to be modified.
Oh, yes. Okay, public comment, or do the applicants or the neighbor wish to speak first? Okay, public comment.
Okay, Carson Clower, are you still with us? You may approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Carson Clower with K2 Solutions on behalf of the neighboring property owner, Tim Johnson. First, I'd like to thank staff. I had multiple conversations with Jonathan and also Abraham, and as always, they're both very accommodating, and I appreciate the feedback and following up. It's nice to get a little bit of a preview of kind of what the comment's going to be before we come up and blindside you. The first thing is that I believe your condition regarding the water source is very ambiguous. You have essentially a can serve letter from Sunny Slope Water District, and then also they can use the existing water source. There's an agreement that says that they actually can't. In the well agreement, it says nothing in this agreement shall prevent any party from distributing water to a future household established on either parcel described above, so long as the future household is permitted by existing zoning regulations and is not on a newly created parcel. So just from the well agreement, the existing houses can, but if you create new parcels, other houses can't. So we would like to make a request that be cleared up so that any future development on the property actually has a water source that's concrete and doesn't create any legal problems. The second thing, and I'm sure there's gonna be lots of conversation on this, and I'll preview it with, Mr. Johnson's property has been going through the general plan update process with the city. Over the last 6 months, his parcel, as well as Mr. Garcia's, were put into the new sphere of influence map that's being reviewed by the general plan consultant, PlaceWorks. So if you were to find that map, and you may have to go back and look at different meetings, I don't think they've actually released one with all the new parcels on it, but both these parcels are in that. So even though it seems like they're far from the city, they're really not, because the sphere of influence was already proposed to go to Enterprise Road, and there are initiation of pre-zone applications for both the Tenasha property to the west of Southside and the Lico and Greco property to the north of Enterprise Road. So it is one of those things where the city sphere will be knocking on the door of this project and probably even including it if it's approved as proposed in the new general plan review process. So what does that mean in terms of your deferred improvement agreement? I agree that deferring doesn't make sense. but there have been changes on the ground and in the works for this property since that agreement was put in place. I would hate to see somebody or anybody put a bunch of money into putting in the improvements and then having to rip them out when they go and do the improvements for their project in the city in hopefully just a couple years. So that's something I would hope that you guys would take into consideration. I don't know what that mechanism looks like. I've heard from Abraham that County Council does believe that the Planning Commission has the opportunity to make changes or as they see fit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Elias Salinas, please approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Well, being part of the sphere of influence doesn't mean that it's going to be annexed. I know that there's a lot of islands within the city and they have all these problems anyway, and that's all political. It's also changing there because of the change of the guard within the current city. I just wanted to state that this, by Carson's saying about the sphere of influence to Enterprise, I don't know if just the sphere of influence is north of Enterprise or including also south of Enterprise with the new construction, the new development that's going on there adjacent to this property. But this parcel request is basically aligning itself and staying with whatever is already there to begin with. All of Enterprise, except for the new development, are all individual homes on septic in small lot parcels and not major acreage as you have over on the Lico side, which is on the north side there. And I just want to say that it stays consistent, and I'm hoping that because of what I mentioned earlier, and I'm sure Commissioner Ray, you did know what I was talking about with regards to that. It's changing of the general plan. Right now, you're just making decisions based on the current general plan. And all I'm saying is that should there be a change of the general plan, and you can talk to your supervisor because it is your supervisor who's wanting those changes, how it'll affect the way we do the housing here. Should we go to 40 that they were talking about and saying, well, the minimum parcel site would be 40 acres and only one house on 40 acres. That's what I'm talking about. And that's dangerous because a 7-acre individual who can own and has the ability to own that doesn't have the ability of the money to own 40 acres. And that way, everybody gets an equal chance of having their dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
There are no more public comments in chambers or via Zoom.
Public comment is closed. Thank you.
So if you go to condition number 20, other water source, so this came from Sunny Slope. In 19 they said that they would allow the 3 services to be taken from the 16-inch main with the installation, some additional improvements of the 3-valve cluster. But condition 20 said that if the applicant used another water source such as that they will defer to allow the alternative water source. These were just comments received, and the commission can make a determination how they see fit.
I'm going to go last. So Commissioner Ringhayden? Commissioner Scaliotti?
Yeah, to the water source, no well. It's already stated that they can't use that well, so no well. So they have to hook up to Sunny Slope Water District.
And what about for sewer?
And I want the sewer hooked up to the Sunny Slope sewer system or City of Hollister. You can't put more septic out there. It's not going to work. And the sewer line goes right there. It's across Sunny Slope or it's on Enterprise because they're all doing all that new development in there. So there's sewer pipes there somewhere for him to connect into.
Okay. So the commission is essentially requesting to strike condition 20.
Correct.
And for 21, the first line of Sunny Slope County Water District will allow septic service for the development as proposed. However, the public utility conditions, these lot will be required to connect to sewer in any future time when increased lot density are proposed. So I think it might be appropriate to bring up the representative Ann Halford.
Go ahead. And you were saying all three parcels, right? If this is approved, that all three parcels are on municipal services and not
Yes.
septic and well?
Yes, yes.
So, I'm Ann Hall, here on behalf of the applicant. And so there's been a couple of different things discussed. I guess I'll start with the issue of the water. There's an existing well, and there's an existing well agreement between the two properties. I am not a lawyer, so whether or not he has the right to use it for an additional properties is something that would probably have to be figured out. But I would just request, he could drill a well on his own property. I mean, in terms of alternative water source, if for that well is deemed that he can't use it, I would just like to preserve the right to use an alternative water source. If the alternative water source with the neighbor doesn't work, he has that option still to drill a well. It may make more sense to hook into Sunny Slope, but I think I'd like to preserve that option. Is there an issue with?
I would rather not preserve the option. I mean, he's surrounded by housing developments, and eventually it will probably be annexed into the city, so there is no need to have a well or septic tanks, in my opinion.
Well, there is no sewer line in front of his property. There is city sewer in Sunnyside Estates that goes to a lift station on the Johnson property next door. He's not allowed to connect into it because he'd have to go to LAFCO to be able to do that. I know that because I had to take that piece in the back of Sunnyside Estates to LAFCO, and that took 2 years and a lot of fighting to even get that allowed. And that was in a much more desirable location in terms of trying to get into the sewer. So politically and physically, he can't get into the city sewer. The county Sunny Slope sewer is into the subdivision to the immediate east of him, just up the road, the one that's under construction.
Recolico.
Yes, but that has no sewer line in the street. So he's actually somewhat in an island. Can he physically get there? He can, but at great cost. I'd like to back up a minute in regard to your comment from the previous one where you said, developers are making all this money. This is a 3-lot split, 3 2.5-acre splits. I would like to compare it to Bennett Ranch, which Ariel mentioned. This is a second deferred improvement agreement, all right? Why wasn't Bennett Ranch, if they were part of the original deferred improvement agreement, why weren't they required to do all this frontage? They built 84 homes, and they left 10 acres right there that was part of their original deferred improvement agreement and didn't do improvements. And now you're down to somebody who wants to do 3 2.5 acres and somebody who owns 2.5 acres, and you want them to improve an intersection that has been a known issue since before Sunnyside Estates went in.
May I say something?
Mhm.
That's prior us.
I understand
That
it's
is
prior
prior
you, but
us.
it's also prior my applicant. It's prior him.
Don't blame us for something the prior people did.
Or didn't
I
do.
have
Or
been
didn't
out
do.
to the county since at least 2015 on this specific intersection, and I have talked to 4 or 5 RMA directors, okay? You may not have known it, but I've known it, and they've known it, and it's been kicked like a can down the road until last man standing, which are the least developable and least profitable parcels are left on that intersection. In the meantime, there's been over 400 homes built that use that intersection that are doing nothing toward it. So there is improvements he needs to accomplish as part of his project. But to me, they need to be in scale with the project he's proposing. This is not 84 homes for sale for a profit like Bennett Ranch, or 200 homes like Sunnyside Estates. This is 3 parcels.
The other problem is neither should the taxpayers. That's where we're stuck.
I know, and I understand that. But I'm here asking for something commiserate with the project he's proposing. And I think there's merit to that argument. And this is not something that happened yesterday, but I can't tell you how much time I've spent talking about this intersection to only end up here, and it's still not improved.
May I ask you a question, Ann?
Mhm.
What were the answers that you were given prior to this when these other developers were doing all this stuff? What were the answers given to you by whoever you went to? What were their answers? Why did they allow Bennett Ranch and all these other ones to get away with this? What was the pat answer?
They're only allowed to do their frontage, or they only have to do their frontage. But again, if this is the remnant of a development agreement that was with Bennett Ranch, then the rules are being applied to him, because mentally, my applicant was prepared to do his frontage. But these are not fiscally, but mentally, he thought he knew that was a possibility. These conditions actually require him to do his frontage and the frontage on the parcel next door, and then collect the money himself from the neighbor without any assistance from the county. I also don't think that is very realistic. And so I do understand you're in a difficult position, and I know you didn't make those decisions, but now we're down to one person who has to pay for all those mistakes. I'm just trying to find something that makes sense with what is currently being proposed. And someday this might be in the city, and it might go to smaller lots, but that's not today.
Ariel?
I just want to add to that my, or staff's, I guess, concern about the sewer. The parcel 1 and parcel 2 are already existing residents with already existing septic systems, so there's no change happening on the parcel. And the way the condition is for future, potential, future development. So I'm just, I think maybe we should tease that conversation out a little bit more.
That's fine.
Okay.
At least for the lot 3, which has no building on it. I don't think there's an excuse that it can't have municipal services then. If you're gonna say pre-existing can't be sewer and well, or septic and well. So then the third lot that doesn't have anything should follow the new rules.
Can I say something? Well, can we have options? Can I propose options for that third parcel, since they were having difficulties prior with the application as far as getting municipal sewer? Can we have those options set up for that third parcel?
Sorry, really quick. That third parcel, as described previously, there is an existing sewer. So you're having one parcel have to improve and bring sewer down just to that one parcel, and just the cost to the proportionality. I just putting.
So you're suggesting that it should be all 3?
No, I'm suggesting that if additional development prior than one residence to 2.5 acres, that triggers the sewer connection. If you suddenly have if you suddenly have that 1 acre, that one parcel of 2.5 acres want to create a Sunnyside Estates or a Bennett Ranch, then that would trigger having to bring sewer down. But one residence for 2.5 acres and the cost of bringing, the proportionality I think future development it should trigger, but if you're looking at the project itself, that's staff's comments.
Well, I could forego the municipal services as long as there's curb, gutter, sidewalk, and undergrounding of utilities.
On his frontage or on?
Well, this condition says both, but it says half of the 64-foot, and we're trying to set a standard of the full width.
But the conditions also require him to improve the frontage on the neighboring property.
That's what it says, and that's part of the deferred improvement agreement, correct?
That is part of the deferred improvement agreement that came out of the Bennett Ranch subdivision. And when that remainder parcel that they didn't develop to the same density was sold, and then that owner bought and then divided it into the 2 lots of 7 and the 3 approximately, they found that it to be not appropriate.
Actually,
Do you have
just
more
to
to that?
clarify, the piece that was the 10-acre piece that was subdivided to create what is now Garcia and Johnson has been a separate piece from Bennett Ranch for a long time. Bennett Ranch did create a separate piece, and had a deferred improvement agreement. So right now, if you required him to improve his frontage and Johnson's frontage, there would be a 60-foot gap between Johnson and the improvements on Bennett Ranch, because they didn't even improve the 60 feet of their remainder. So, again.
Who allowed that?
If you wanted to go to the screen, the image might help kind of the
Yeah.
conversation at hand. CMAP, if you'd like to go to the screen, please. Thank you. Thank you so much. So as you see highlighted here, it's the frontage of Enterprise up to, where the purple ends and then the yellow begins, then and then south side and that frontage piece along south side. So does that help with the discussion?
So there's a gap
clarification?
between the property line and the detention pond, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
There's 60 foot that is an access to the back undevelopable portion of Bennett Ranch that was left with no frontage improvements. And I'll be the first one to say, there is no staff in this room who were here in 2015 when this is going on. So I'm not criticizing current staff. I'm really just trying to ask, what is a reasonable requirement of this subdivision, given, like I said, that we've just,
Okay. So is there a willingness to do the full width of the road, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and undergrounding the utilities along Enterprise? And we'll forego south side? Because I think that's a minimum for me.
when you may say full width, are you talking curb gutter and sidewalk on the other side as well?
No, no, no,
Because
no, no,
honestly,
no.
there's
Road.
another development coming, I
Road.
mean,
Just the pavement. And then on their side, sidewalk, curb and gutter, so that people, when they're walking from Greco, Lico, and Quail Hollow and Oak Creek, can have a safe place to walk to south side. And then, of course, down the road, we'll have to figure out south side.
It's the half foot.
it's the half of the,
And then I guess the
40 foot.
county can fill in that 60-foot gap since we failed to get that done correctly.
So it's this side
Another
and
one
not
for
the
Steve.
other aligning properties.
Oh, no, that's just the way.
But we have to clean these things up. We just can't keep
No, we
making
can't keep
mistakes
doing
time and
this.
time again, and then the taxpayers are footing the bill, and that's where
Well,
we're
but
stuck.
my client's a taxpayer too, and he's gonna be footing a very big bill relative to what he's developing, and that's all I'm asking for here.
And then there's a reimbursement agreement, or how is he gonna get the money from his neighbor?
I don't know.
Is there a mechanism that we can,
Not to my point of view, no.
So, we did discuss this with legal, and Sean can add,
That's a private civil matter between those property owners.
But it's a deferred improvement agreement with the county. You know, the people who signed that deferred improvement agreement, one of them no longer owns the property, that's what happens, they sell properties. The only common person on that deferred improvement agreement is the county. I don't see where my client has any means to force Mr. Johnson to pay for his portion of the
oh,
improvements.
okay. But the the previous deferred improvement agreement was known by the gentleman when he bought the property, correct?
It
So he
was.
had some awareness that it's not a big surprise?
And when he came in and talked to me about this, I said, there is a deferred improvement agreement. You will have to do some frontage improvements. But I didn't tell him he had to do frontage improvements on the property next door. I told him he only had to do them on his. And apparently that worked for Bennett Ranch, you know, they only did
We're not
improvements on
gonna
theirs.
continue the mistakes that have been done in the past, where this is a different planning commission, and we're not gonna continue those mistakes because the taxpayers shouldn't be paying for it. That's the problem that we're running into. We're running into a lot of issues that happened in the past, and now we're trying to stop that avalanche. Because we have a deferred improvement agreement list that's 20 years old, and I don't think anything's been taken off in the past couple of years. So we have a lot of work to do,
And I
and we just
don't
can't
disagree with
continue
what you're
adding to
saying,
it.
but I'm looking for some, because at some point, if you require him to make all these improvements, then nothing's gonna happen because he doesn't have that kind of money. I mean, this is not the kind of property, the kind of subdivision that's gonna generate the amount of money to do the improvements you're asking
So
for.
if he,
So then you
if he
still end up with
s-
nothing.
if he sells those 3 lots, it wouldn't generate the revenue to,
Not, there's a box culvert on Enterprise Road that's gonna have to be widened, and there is PG&E that's gonna have to be underground. And like I said, we talked about the fact that there was some of that he was gonna have to do. But if you have to underground that, there's a huge transformer at the corner of Southside and Enterprise. I mean, the costs involved with what you're saying, going across the road and then going down and wrapping around to Southside, are beyond the scope of this project.
I have a question.
Mhm.
The Bennett Ranch and the one across the street, what's the name of the one across the street?
Sunnyside.
Sunnyside. Are those city or county subdivisions? County subdivisions.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
doesn't surprise me.
I think if anything, at this point, I'm not sure we're gonna come to a decision, and I wanna speak for my client, but I'd almost like to continue this and see if we can come to a more reasonable definition of what these improvements should be. I just don't, I can't see doing all that frontage making sense. I understand your point, but he's paying the penalty for a lot of mistakes, and that doesn't make sense either.
well, we can contemplate the option of doing sidewalk, curb and gutter to the property line and underground the utilities to the property line or wherever the next pole is, because I don't
Mhm.
remember where the poles are. But that might be an option, a compromise that we can come to, and then we have to deal with Mr. Johnson's piece in the near future.
I agree with, I don't think we have an issue with that. If we can limit it to the frontage of the parcel that is
Bring that
actually
map
being
back up again,
subdivided.
please.
Yes, if CMAP could bring up the
But
presentation.
Then we still have the issue with the water for the 3rd parcel.
And can you clarify the frontage again for me, please?
Is the yellow Mr. Johnson's?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And the applicant is the darker colored,
The brown,
the brown. all
Between
way
the
to
purple and the yellow.
Between the purple and the yellow is the applicant's property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
thank you.
Is the applicant willing to curb it?
Whoop.
No, not thank you yet, Abraham.
So would the applicant agree to do undergrounding utilities along that property line, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and do the full width of the road? Yeah, we're setting a new standard.
No more of this haphazard stuff. We're
Yeah.
tired of it. And these previous boards have made this county nothing but a mess.
And is fire satisfied with access to those? Okay. Okay. Well, they're there. You just can't see them.
Yeah, they're I don't know if you can kind of see those shadows. Let me see if I can.
It looks like a pencil mark.
I was gonna say those shadows
Yeah, I
look
don't
like
know if
maybe
you
the
can
poles.
point to 'em,
Yeah.
but there's one there.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
There's one there, one there, one there.
Yeah,
one
right
there. There's
here.
about 5.
That's all
Here.
the shadows, right?
Yeah.
Can you kind of? Oh, it's not showing up.
You see the shadows like that stick inside the road? There's like a shadow in the road.
Yeah, those shadows.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you can kind of see
Come and
them.
get it?
Well,
I'm not being able
It
to
should be
get
here for
it,
you.
so I'm sorry.
You gotta come here and get them.
I'd rather get it hammered out tonight than continue it if possible.
Pissed me off a little bit tonight.
No, you gotta get them. Let's see this
Oh,
previous.
well, there we go.
Got it?
Well, it kind of makes a little green line. Oh, okay. Right, there's a pole. Is that what you're looking for, to show the pole? There's one. There's one. I can't tell if there's one there.
Okay.
There's one there. But this is a box culvert right here. My client,
Where's that box curve go? Where is
Across
it?
to
Across,
Lico's.
across, and then
we
down?
go, so the drainage coming down this road comes down here, goes under the box culvert, heads over across, kind of by,
The Lico side and then on down to Southside
yeah,
Road.
down by where the well is.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
Oh, what a mess.
I don't know how we handle that. Do we wait for the city to annex that piece, since it's probably going to be commercial, and of course the city will annex it? Will they take care of that?
That would be my preference. But I mean, you can't do frontage improvements and not do something about big box culvert. But yeah, the reality is this probably will get annexed across the street, and it's probably gonna be a larger subdivision, and their obligation is for their half of the road, but my client is, like I said, he knows this road improvement agreement exists. He's prepared to do the curb gutter, sidewalk, and road improvements along the frontage of his property.
And undergrounding utilities.
If he has to, he will, yes, it'll include underground utilities.
I think we just can't leave poles. I mean, it looks, when you go to the Riverview too, it just disgusts me that we allowed that to not get undergrounded. And that was due to the death of the RMA director at the time, because the planning commission directed him to get that undergrounded, and it didn't happen. And I just drive by it every day and shake my head. So I think we need to be consistent. Lico, I'm assuming is gonna underground, so that this development should as well. And then when Mr. Johnson does something, that can get undergrounded
He
as
has
well.
to underground to do his curb and gutter all the way around.
We just need to be consistent and not doing those little one-off islands of ridiculous things that we've done in the past.
Okay, so then are we agreeing that he does the frontage improvements on his property, from the purple to the yellow?
I would be willing to concede that.
Okay, I think.
And the undergrounding of the utilities. We still have to deal with the drinking water on Lot 3. I think that should be Sunny Slope. I'm not gonna just leave it up and then there's gonna be some sort of a squabble. I'd rather have some defined water service for that lot, since I think that's a requirement that we have water.
So, that's the only lot that's gonna have a.
What's that lot over there, next to Lico Greco?
Yeah, parcel 3.
Carson, please come up to the podium. We don't have that map and I can't remember.
So just for clarity, lot 3 is not the only new parcel. You're taking one parcel and making 3 parcels, so really you have 3 new parcels. Maybe you could swap one for one, but it's not just lot 3. There's also lot 2, or however you want to number them. So to make it as clean as possible, really, you should probably be abandoning the interest in the well, abandoning the easement. In my past experience, that's what Sunny Slope has usually required people to do anyways. I don't know why that wasn't in their letter, which is different than the letters used to be. It used to be very specific. You have to do this to get service, and we will give you service. The letter that was provided was you can do this, and we can do this. So you guys are doing a good job of knocking out the ambiguity on the other stuff. I would really appreciate if we also got this sorted out too.
Ann, is there a possibility of that, just to make things clean?
I would like to say that the residences that are already drawing water from that well, which will end up on 2 different parcels, are allowed to continue to draw water from the well just like they're currently doing. Lot 3, which will have no residents, yes, we could go to Sunny Slope on that one.
Council? Or what kind of a mess are we getting into if we allow all 3 to, or the first 2 to be remaining on the well? Would it be more clean just to cut the ties on all 3, or to 2?
Staff just wanted to comment that we could also add to the condition language that the existing residents remain, but any improvements or any additional resident, like an ADU, would be required to connect to Sunny Slope. With that.
What is the pleasure of the commission on that particular subject? I think we're gonna just have to take these things one at a time and work them out. Yes.
Okay, let's say the new lot 3, that's new lot, right?
Mhm.
That is mandatory to hook up to
Okay.
Sunny Slope water.
Sunny Slope water.
Okay.
And I also think since you're bringing the water there anyway, how much more could it cost to hook up those other 2 houses? It can't cost that much more.
What's the Sunny
wouldn't
Slope
think
hookup fee is? Good
$12,000
$12,000 per lot, just to hook up? That's above construction cost. And then sewer fees are on top of that.
No, we'll leave sewer to the septic for
Okay.
now.
But, yeah, the water costs.
What else are we gonna do? We have to.
That's still $12,000 plus the cost of height. It's not so much the construction, I think it's more the hookup fees. When you've got a residence currently on, you know, that's not changing.
Okay, what about upon sale of lots 1 and 2 that they go with Sunny Slope Water? Then it's on the new owner,
Yeah. Yeah.
unless there's an intent to keep them as rentals. I mean, but if it's on a new owner, then that's their
Well,
issue.
Even if there's a new dwelling put on that parcel, no matter who does it,
Well,
it
that as
goes,
well.
it automatically goes to the,
Yeah, so,
to the water.
so sale or any additional residence.
Yeah, the only,
Okay.
how many residents
Is
are
that-
there now?
Is that a happy medium?
Those are the only 2 that can be on that well, period. Huh?
Would you like to come up to the mic? I apologize, just so it gets captured on
Look,
the record.
The county planning commission should have a note on those parcels, right? That any change in ownership or any additional building permit triggers the mandatory use of Sunny Slope Water.
I appreciate you asking my opinion. I do not think it works. I think you go one way or the other, whether it's what I'm suggesting or what Ann's suggesting. But I don't believe the county has a mechanism that they actually follow when sales happen. That would end up probably being my job to enforce it, which is not a good thing, because I'm not gonna be good at that job, because it's one of 100 things I do. And then your building department probably doesn't even have a mechanism that would trigger saying that you have to put in a water hookup to Sunny Slope County Water District. Your departments are all together, but they don't always talk.
I can comment on just part of that, that if it is a condition recorded on the map, that map is checked when we check building permits. And so, we do planning review, and it also has public works review, and the recorded map is checked when a building permit is pulled. So, maybe there are times in the past where maybe something was missed, but we do have a check system for building permits, just putting that out there. Also, it is required by realtors to disclose anything that's recorded on a parcel, just FYI too.
Carson?
Anything you want to add, sorry.
Have a little bit of experience with that. Not every realtor does their job well, and
That's right.
the vast majority of buyers do not read or understand their title reports. So you guys are trying to solve problems. I mean, even if you don't go with what I'm suggesting, make it so that somebody else doesn't stumble into another giant pit later on. Because if somebody says, hey, I want to do an ADU, and then they come and submit an application, and then all of a sudden, well, it's actually going to be like, I don't know, 60 or 80 grand to get water to your ADU, which I thought was going to be zero because I'm on a well. There's a lot of different things that can happen, and it would be better to just all or nothing. Thanks.
Any discussion from the commission on our options available?
Well, unfortunately, he's right. It's gotta be all or nothing. Because it'll slip through the cracks. Always does. I know of 3 of them right now that.
If he doesn't know either.
And not fair to the buyer if he doesn't know either, if he's not informed, and if it slips through the cracks. And every time there's a sale, a lot of the times, I know there's a well issue right now in North County where the person's supposed to have the well and there's no paper trail to the well. So there's a big thing going on, so it's all or nothing.
So parcels 2 and 3, or all of them?
All of them.
I think they should all have the water and not use a well.
Sunny Slope Water on all 3 lots? And have a clear break?
I think that's the cleanest for everybody down the line. It's gonna cost the applicant a lot of money now, but eventually, there won't be.
Benefits in the long run.
In the
because
long
now
run,
you've
it'll
got a
benefit him.
clean-
I think you can condition Sunny Slope for new stuff, but I don't think you can require him to abandon a well he's currently using and has an agreement to use for at least one parcel.
So you're saying we can condition lots 2 and 3, but not 1?
At a minimum, I think he should be allowed to continue to use a well for one.
How many dwellings on that one lot?
There's 2 dwellings, one will end up on parcel 1, one will end up on parcel 2. So,
Well, then we're convoluted again.
That's kind of
Because
the
you got
problem.
one and.
Well, no, but then you can also add a condition that the lot 1 cannot add another building, an ADU or anything, unless it goes to municipal.
Or lot 2. Or
Well,
lot
no,
2.
just make lot 2 municipal. 2 and 3 municipal now, And if lot one tries to add an ADU, they go municipal. That would be a solution that should make everybody somewhat happy. I mean, we're not gonna make everybody happy.
Oh, that'll be somewhat, yeah, okay, I'll go with that.
I will too.
Okay.
But you gotta set it in stone. I mean, you've gotta make sure
We're trying to avoid the future things, because this county has a lot of issues.
Got a lot of bad issues. I can't believe there's 60 feet. That's not gonna get curb and gutter. When we
I have a
to pay
question.
for it.
Is
Yeah,
parcel
kidding me.
2 or parcel 3 gonna run into problems trying to get the sewer water?
No, it's
No.
not sewer, it's
Oh.
just drinking water.
Drinking water,
And
okay.
the
Oh, I see.
pipeline is right there, right?
There's a 16-inch in the road, but if you read the condition, Sunny Slope has some conditions, because they don't want direct taps into a 16-inch line. So, but
Yeah, but that could still be done, though.
it can still be done for the water. I think,
Mhm.
but was your question about sewer?
But we'll leave sewer alone, I think
Okay.
that's the consensus for
Okay,
now.
thank you.
Just leave
Thank
sewer
you.
alone.
If it's okay, could I just make sure I captured this correctly? So the condition that will be revised, so condition number, oh, my apologies, I lost my 19 and 20, thank you, next page. Oh no, I think I mixed up my pages.
Page 152. Condition 19.
There we go. Okay, so for condition 19, we will revise that lots 2 and 3 will require to connect to shall require to connect to Sunny Slope County Water District. And any additional units on lot 1.
Yes.
And in addition, we are revising the improvement condition apologize, my 23, thank you. It was on the same page, of course. That
Strike condition A,
okay.
23A.
On the
And then we'll have to clean up or delete the language regarding
and-
widening of the culvert box. We can still do sidewalk, curb, and gutter around that culvert box, Steve? Is there a way to make that work so wheelchair or stroller can?
What does it look
Here.
like?
It's just a dirt road right now.
Um,
It's just an old county road.
Also, just as a side note, as you're discussing, right now it reads the entire property frontage of Enterprise Road. And I believe that extends past the property lines. So per the development agreement, I can pull that up. Let me just.
We just wanted a long lots 1, 2, and 3,
Yes, yeah.
as well as the undergrounding of the utilities, electric.
We want it across the whole front of his property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead, sorry.
So regarding the box culvert, if you're gonna widen the road, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to make improvements around the box culvert. There's kind of no way around it. And I do understand the undergrounding of the utilities. The only thing I would point out is even in the deferred agreement, that was never required to underground the utilities because it's a lengthy process and it's really expensive and it is just a 3-lot property. So I'll just throw that out there. But they will have to adjust the box culvert. So.
Is Lico Greco gonna be undergrounding their lines?
On the opposite side of the street?
On-
Oh, you mean,
In front of Lico Greco, the poles are on the same side of the street. Are they gonna underground those? I would hope.
where's Lico?
So Vista del Calabria is going this
Yeah, Vista is undergrounded.
Okay, so let's be consistent as we move towards south side and make sure that all of them do, rather than having two properties with power poles.
Okay, noted.
I wish we could get them up south side from Riverview 2 around to the labor camp, but that's probably not gonna happen anytime soon unless you use that grant money that's available, Steve.
3 million?
Okay, so
Something to work on in the future.
standard purpose, and property grant, okay. No, it did say property grant.
I think that satisfied all my concerns. And then, oh.
Okay.
Then there was just.
Were there other
Uh,
conditions you would like to discuss tonight?
The resolution itself, I don't know if it's been corrected, but it's up at the top, it's resolution 2023. That should be changed to 2024 dash next.
Yes, we will correct.
Applicant owner of a dim-
Yes,
Additional
2024.
parcel will have a new well drill. The whereas on the resolution, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 one down, if you can update that regarding the well, there will be no well on parcel 3.
Okay.
And well, the septic will continue. Then 3 more whereases down. The planning commission, just correct the date to the current date, please. Finding 3. Page 146, finding 3. Evidence 2 will make. We have to change that wording. The dwelling on the proposed parcel 2 will make use of the pre-existing septic and well systems. They will not make use of the well system.
Okay.
And I think we've tidied up that
No.
satisfactorily.
Yeah, staff will go through and correct any findings that relate back to those conditions of approval.
Okay. Is that?
And make sure it gets recorded properly. Way down, right down to the assessor's office.
Okay.
Make sure it's done.
The chair does review the revised resolution that's
She's gonna
brought
put
back.
it on me.
As well as staff.
Any other comments or questions? Do we have a motion from someone on the commission with all those changes? You could just say so moved, it's easy.
So moved. Let's make the changes and let's move on.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, oh, we're not done yet. We have commissioner announcements. Thank you, though. Are there any commissioner announcements?
I have none.
I have none.
Commissioner Way?
No, I don't believe so.
Commissioner Toledo?
I would like to announce that my supervisor, B. Gonzalez, is running this election, and I hope anyone living in District 5 will support her. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Just to clarify, it wasn't Supervisor Kuzmicki that was trying to change the ag zoning. That was the commissioner, the planning commission. Also, I would like to add an item to the February agenda to take a look at the duties of the planning commission and consider asking the board to revise those duties and expand them. And that's all I have. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. This meeting is adjourned. I thank you all for your time, and we will see you on the 31st.